All right, we're back up now. Hopefully everything will go smoother this time after the technical difficulties. Picking back up on the connections. Dylan figured out in while we were in the technical difficulties. What'd you say it was? It was
You can figure it out.
Ty Chandler,
Mm-hmm.
Gibbs, Etienne, and Herbert. Boom! There we go.
It was.
We got the connections. There we go. Now we'll move on to the big stuff here. Moving on to the draft recap rounds 1 and 2. Opens up on round 2. But we're going round 1 first. All right. You ready?
Yep.
First overall, the Bears select Caleb Williams out of USC, quarterback. I think everyone knew that was coming.
Yeah.
Bears traded away Fields. Caleb Williams, obviously the best quarterback available in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like you can't really mess this one up.
You know, I have I know someone who is a Bears fan, has been a Bears fan for a long time. And even though he was disappointed they got rid of Fields, he's saying that the future looks really bright for them. Having a new young quarterback can bring you a lot of opportunities, hoping for that new Patrick Mahomes or someone who's going to be a mainstay. And I think Caleb Williams is very capable of doing this, and he's going into a really good situation. One of the best situations any QB has ever gone into a season, because usually the first drafted QB is going to a bad team. But since this was a courtesy pick from Carolina, I think overall he might be one of the best rookie QBs we've seen in a while.
Yeah, he's got DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Romo Dunze, who we'll get to later, along with a young tight end in Cole Kmet and DeAndre Swift, and a young and improving offensive line from Chicago. So if he fails, I feel like it's got to be on him.
Yeah, he has every weapon he needs to succeed here, and I think he's going to be doing really good at this offense. And I think it's enough to probably put Chicago in a competitive manner with Detroit for taking the division.
Yeah, I think they could definitely be a playoff team for sure. You like the pick, yes or no?
I think it's a good pick. I think it was probably the right pick, and everyone knew it was going to happen. They waited for 5 minutes. I think it was possible. Didn't they? Someone.
Yeah, the NFL had them wait 5 minutes before the pick for whatever reason.
They knew who they wanted. It was pretty obvious when they traded away Fields that that's what they were going for. So, overall, really good pick from the Chicago Bears.
Yes, moving on, number 2, Washington Commanders take Jaden Daniels, quarterback out of LSU. And I like the pick. I think he's a good player, but I think Drake May is quarterback 2 for me in the class. There are some concerns that he's not very cautious when playing, but his ceiling is like Lamar 2.0.
Yeah.
I think their new offensive coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury, who played a lot with Kyler Murray, he wants that kind of dual threat player, and I think Jaden Daniels fits that very well for them.
Yeah, I think Jaden Daniels would do good in this offense. He has yet again, Caleb Williams, has a lot of decent offensive options. They just picked up Austin Eckler. They still got Brian Robinson, so you have a pretty good running game. You got Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson. Do they have a third right now? I don't know who their third would be, but either way, you got some decently strong receivers. What I'm mostly worried about is their defense right now, is that their defense was pretty weak coming at the end of the 2023 season. And I'm afraid that's going to put a lot more pressure on Jaden Daniels, because no matter how good your offense is, if your defense can't hold up, it's going to be close games almost 90% of the time.
Yeah. I mean, can't really either. If they either went May or Daniels here, I don't think the pick is really bad. Do you like the pick?
I think it makes sense, and I agree that that's probably what the best thing to do at their position. But I haven't looked at round 2 yet, but I really hope that they drafted some defensive players.
Yeah, they're talking on the draft that before his season last year at college, he would have been a 4th rounder.
Really?
So now he's the 2nd overall pick. So good for him.
Yeah.
3rd overall was Drake May, quarterback in North Carolina. This one hurts because I wanted him to be a Giant, but Patriots did not want to trade out of that pick. They were sticking and picking. They're getting their next quarterback. Fresh era. There's no Bill Belichick. Obviously, there hasn't been Brady there for a while. So I guess we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, so yet again, this is unheard of in most drafts, having 3 QBs be the first 3 picks. I think this is a good pick from them personally. They have that already good defense, solid defense. They don't have as much options or like weapons at offense as most other teams do, but that might have just been because their quarterback play was so kind of crappy that I couldn't allow for that. So maybe having Drake May will allow them to open up this offense and start to actually produce something.
Yeah, it's definitely a less than ideal situation, obviously, when compared to Caleb Williams, but I think he's got a solid running back and a solid tight end. Those are usually 2 positions that rookie quarterbacks tend to rely on a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess they just got to figure out a way to get him some pass catchers, and then hopefully he's good. I'll be rooting for him 100%. Like the pick.
I like the pick. I will not be rooting for him because I am a Dolphins fan and I don't like the Patriots. But it was a good pick, all things considered.
Yes. Number 4, Cardinals take Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver out of Ohio State. I feel like most people knew that one was kind of coming.
Yeah.
Cardinals need a receiver. Best one available. Probably the best one in a while we've seen, probably since Jamar Chase.
Absolutely. So I think everyone knew going into this draft, first 4 picks are kind of already sort of locked in. Obviously, there was some wishy-washy stuff around the Patriots, but it was still pretty known that they were going to try to take a QB. So honestly, I wasn't surprised by this, and I was expecting this for a while. This is a really good spot for Marvin Harrison Jr. They just traded away Marquise Hollywood Brown, so he's most likely going to be the number 1 there. And I think with Kyler Murray throwing to him, he can really strive in this offense. So now you're going to have the dual threat of having the tight end of Trey McBride and the wide receiver of Marvin Harrison Jr. in that offense, which will really open it up for everyone.
Yeah, and hopefully Kyler Murray gets to play the whole season. He spent most of last year injured, and obviously didn't really help them go anywhere, obviously picking 4th.
Yeah.
But I think this is a good pick. You need a receiver, and you get the best one in the draft,
Absolutely.
arguably. So moving on, the Chargers take Joe Alt, offensive tackle out of Notre Dame. And I'm not surprised by this pick. I kind of assumed they would,
Mm-hmm.
but I just feel like they kind of need a receiver more.
Yeah. Do you think this is more of a best available type of thing, or do you think this was a they wanted him and this was why they picked him over someone else?
I think because it was a deep receiver class,
Mm-hmm.
and I know for a fact that they took a receiver in the second, so I assume that their front office was like, hey, tackle and receiver in need,
Mm-hmm.
and we like Joe Alt enough to take him here, and we're comfortable enough with whoever we get in the second.
Yeah.
So I assume that's where this came from, and I know Jim Harbaugh, who's the new head coach there at Michigan, he likes to run the ball a lot, likes to have a good offensive line and all that. So I think that's kind of what he's bringing over.
Yeah.
So that's where the pick was. And through my mock, this is what I had, 1 through 5. This is exactly how I had it going. Like I said, they probably would have benefited from one of the higher end receivers, but I think who they got in the second isn't a bad option either.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess we'll end up seeing what happens anyway.
Yeah, I'm still a little worried about the Chargers. Losing Keenan Allen and Mike Williams is a huge loss for them, and I'm not so sure how confident I am in a second-round wide receiver and Joshua Palmer at this point.
Yeah, Quinn Johnson too.
Quinn Johnson. Even though you have Justin Herbert thrown to him, who's a really good quarterback, is that enough? Especially also losing Aston Eckler. Who's going to be? Are they throwing to like J.K. Dobbins now? Right?
They've Gus Edwards, I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure J.K. Dobbins got traded there too.
Did he? I know Gus Edwards did.
I'm pretty sure. Let me look it up to make sure, but I'm pretty sure. If you want to cover something else.
All right, we'll move on then. Number 6, my favorite team, the New York Giants, select Malik Neighbors, wide receiver out of LSU. I'm pretty happy with this pick. We needed a receiver pretty bad. I thought it would be Rome Odunze,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not upset with Neighbors. Obviously, I would have preferred us to trade up and get Drake May, but if we didn't, I knew we weren't going to take a quarterback. I think Neighbors is too good of a receiver to pass up on.
Yeah, so Malik Neighbors, one of those stud wide receivers that we see in this class. That's why it's a very deep wide receiver class. There's a lot of really good guys, but there's also a lot of solid guys. So he and Odunze are the last of the really good guys. So it's good that the Giants get that confident and really well-producing wide receiver. However, do you think it would have been better if they even took a QB here? Because yeah, you got one of the best wide receivers of this draft class, but how much is it going to help when you have Daniel Jones or the Seahawks backup thrown to him?
Drew Lock.
Drew Lock, yeah.
Well, the thing is, if we take J.J. McCarthy, does that really improve the team more than it already is?
I think having that developing QB is, yeah. I know you lose a lot of dead salary cap with Daniel Jones, but from like most of the Giants fans I've talked to, it's at this point they're all sick of him. They all know he's not the answer. So getting that new QB and started growing them might be better. Especially I've heard next year's draft class for QBs is not nearly as like rich as this one is. So I feel like it would have been better even if they got Michael Penix Jr. I feel like that would have been a lot better than Malik Neighbors. That's just me though. So I'm not sure, but I've heard that Malik Neighbors is not. I don't know if he's super happy with the situation. I heard when he met Daniel Jones, it was a little awkward, which usually isn't a good sign. So
You talking about the tweet that was sent in the group chat the other day?
yeah,
That's a troll.
that was a troll.
That's not real.
Okay,
There was a video of him like arriving at the facility and all that, and he wasn't like super happy, and so everyone's like, "Oh my God, he's already upset to be there." But the guy's probably tired. Like
fair.
he's probably hasn't slept all week because he's getting drafted and all that. But I mean, I don't really know, honestly. I would have been fine with J.J. McCarthy there. I'm not like super high on J.J. McCarthy, but like there's people who absolutely don't want him at all. And then I think Penix there would have been too early for him. I think he went too early in general and to the wrong team.
Yeah.
I was assuming we could have gotten a receiver and then him in the second, but obviously there was this run on quarterbacks that kind of stopped that. So I guess I'll have another year with Daniel Jones, and we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah, I understand the pick fully. It's not like a thing of like I think this is the worst pick ever. I just think there might have been a better option here rather than going for a wide receiver.
Yeah. Moving on, J.C. Latham to the Titans, offensive tackle at Alabama. I think it's a good pick. I would have gone a different tackle, but I think he's definitely up there. There's a lot of good tackles in this draft that went all over the place. I mean, Titans just rebuilding, really.
Yeah, so overall, I think this is a solid pick. I think they're trying to keep Will Levis healthy and keep him protected. So I think having that really good offensive tackle will really allow this offense to flourish a little bit more. So overall, I understand the pick, and I think it's a good pick. You know, Titans already have a solid defense, don't they? So I think buffing up your O-line is a pretty solid move in this draft.
Yeah, it's, as they say, it's not the sexy pick, but it is a necessary pick.
True.
And then on to probably the most controversial pick of the draft. The Falcons take Michael Penix Jr., quarterback out of Washington. Where do we even begin? I think 8 is too high for him. Not that he's a bad quarterback, but I think he should have gone edge rush for Atlanta. Obviously, they signed Kirk Cousins to a huge contract this offseason, in which by the time that ends, Michael Penix will be 28 because he's already considered old prospect. He's 24 now. So I get the idea you want to build towards your long-term future, kind of like how the Packers did with Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre, and then eventually Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love. But they're at that point where they're kind of like win now, or at least compete now. And I think edge rush would have helped them way more than a quarterback would. So I can't agree with the pick here.
So I'll play devil's advocate here, actually. And my dad kind of summarized it to me in a way that makes sense to me. You have Kirk Cousins for what, like 4 more years, 3 to 4 more years, right? Getting that young, high upside quarterback now can allow him to build up those skills. Like Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady were behind their quarterbacks for like 2 years or something. I'm not exactly sure how long, but they were behind them. And when they were put on the field, they were able to flourish and show that skill that their previous quarterback had and go the distance with it. So I think this isn't like the worst pick ever. Yes, it's too early, and I think they should have just gone Rome Odunze. But I can understand where they're coming from and wanting to get this pick and wanting to get that quarterback and start building them up. And I don't think it's the worst move ever. And everyone, I feel like, in my opinion, is overreacting to it. I understand it. I think it's a solid pick. I just don't think it's what everyone expected.
Also, I want to point out, he's pretty injury prone. In college, he tore his right ACL twice, and he hurt both of his shoulders in 4 years. So
Hopefully he'll have some time to work on that and try to, either fall right or do whatever he needs to do to stay more healthy. Keep in mind, Kirk Cousins also they're a little worried about him being injury prone. So, say if Kirk Cousins leaves week 11, you got this quarterback who could be a number one quarterback any given game. So having that guy in this offense as a whole, I don't think it's that bad of a move.
I mean, he's definitely got the playmakers on offense to
Mm-hmm.
to succeed. So I guess we'll see how this turns out and see if we're all wrong in the future. Number 9, the Bears take Rome Odunze, wide receiver out of Washington. I think this was a good value.
Amazing
It
value.
just stacks the weapons for Caleb Williams. I want to say the Bears probably win the first round. Like
Most
if we're
definitely.
ranking them, that they're definitely up there. Obviously, you get your quarterback of the future and a young receiver to pair with him. They'll probably play a lot together.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's a phenomenal pick.
One thing about Rome Odunze I want to talk on is that he's going to be the number 3 in this offense most likely for a while. So I don't think he's going to have an amazing start like, oh, this is a rookie wide receiver, rookie of the year. But I think he'll be solid enough where you'll see he has that talent. But it's just kind of waiting for, when is Keenan Allen going to start walking out? That's when I think Rome Odunze is really going to start shining. And like I said earlier, I know a Bears fan. He was really happy with how this draft came out. Not because of the Caleb Williams, but because he got Odunze here. He was really expecting the Falcons to actually take Odunze. So when they didn't, he was like, we got them now. And he was so excited to have that Caleb Williams and that Odunze pairing. So overall, I think this is a really good pick for Chicago. And I think they really got a bright future ahead of them for this upcoming year.
Yeah, he gets to sit behind 2 veteran top-tier receivers
Mm-hmm.
and just learn. Honestly, doesn't have to do too much right now. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. 10, the Vikings take J.J. McCarthy, quarterback out of Michigan. I think most people assumed he would probably go here. A lot of people thought he would probably trade up, myself
Mhm.
included, or the Vikings would trade up. They ends up falling up. They trade up 1 pick with the Jets. They swapped, and they get their guy,
Mm-hmm.
and this is their Kirk Cousins replacement. We'll see how that goes.
So I think it's something I'm going to be watching during this offseason and going into the season is you got Justin Jefferson, the best, or considered one of the best wide receivers in this NFL as a whole right now, and you have a rookie QB. Now, I don't know I'm not super enriched in history of the NFL, but is that something to be a little bit worried about? Is this rookie QB throwing balls to one of the best wide receivers in football?
I mean, the uncertainties with McCarthy is that he wasn't asked to do a lot at Michigan. Michigan ran the ball a lot and had a very strong defense.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the national championship game, he threw like 14 passes. So he doesn't have the stats, but people who work in the NFL, like GMs and scouts, believe he has the tools in order to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's kind of hard to fail when you have a Justin Jefferson or a TJ Hawkinson you're throwing to and a Jordan Addison. So it could be problematic. Maybe he just stinks, but I think he's definitely set up for success.
Mm-hmm. I think he's going to be better than, who they have, Sam Darnold or Nick Mullins.
I don't know about right away, but definitely in the long term, he will definitely be. I don't know if he'll start right away.
Mm-hmm.
They might start Sam Darnold for a bit until he just, has a bad game or something. They're like, okay, get in there, JJ, and then we'll see how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
11, the Jets get offensive tackle Olu Fashanu out of Penn State. I think it was good. I actually thought they were going to take Brock Bowers here, but they did need a tackle. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers played 4 snaps last year, so that definitely is going to be very helpful for him.
I think it's going to be very important for the Jets to want to keep Aaron Rodgers healthy. I think they're really worried at this point that had such high hopes coming into last season. It was going to be great. They had Garrett Wilson. They had Aaron Rodgers. This was going to be a good year for them. 4 plays in, and your season's essentially over. And it sucks. I feel like as a Jets fan, I'm not a Jets fan, but if I were to be one, I would feel like that would be, soul-crushingly, horrible. So seeing that they're working on trying to make Aaron Rodgers more protected, I would feel more inclined to be like, okay, we're going to do good this year. This is a really good pick. So overall, I think this is exactly. Obviously, they could have took Brock Bowers, but I think overall this is probably a better pick than that.
Yeah, I mean, Brock Bowers would just kind of been like a luxury pick,
Yeah.
like best player available. Oh,
Mhm.
another weapon in the offense. Obviously, he's very good. He kind of fell just because he plays tight end, really.
Yeah.
But the Jets and the next team, the Broncos, kind of intertwined in news recently. They traded Zach Wilson to the Broncos, I think, for like just a 7th-round pick. So most people assumed that the Broncos are probably going quarterback here, and they take Bo Nix out of Oregon.
Yeah. See, this one's where it's a little weird. Bo Nix is a good quarterback. Like, he is pretty solid. But if you couldn't do it with Russell Wilson, I'm not so sure how confident I would be with Bo Nix, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just worried about that because Russell Wilson, he went to a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, with Seattle.
So he went to a Super Bowl with Seattle, goes to Denver, doesn't do nearly as good. You trade him away after, like, what, 2-3 years of having him?
2 years, I think it was.
2 years of having him. What is going to be their patience with a new upcoming quarterback compared to a veteran quarterback in Russell Wilson?
Well, one, he's significantly cheaper than Russell Wilson.
True.
And the thing that most people talk about is he's getting, like, compared to Drew Brees.
Mhm.
And Sean Payton happens to be the coach of the Broncos now. So I assume Broncos fans are kind of hoping that they can get a Drew Brees-esque type of player.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Drew Brees is kind of a high ceiling there.
Yeah.
But
Just trying to get a fraction of that.
I assume they just want someone who can at least take them to the playoffs. I don't think they have 0 playoff appearances since Peyton Manning retired.
I believe not.
Yeah, so I mean, it probably was a little early for Bo Nix, but I mean, a lot of them went off the board, and you really needed one. So I feel like they kind of, I don't want to say panicked, but we're like, okay, we gotta make the move.
We gotta do this now or never.
Because I think the Raiders were also in talks for a quarterback as well.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously one pick ahead. They were like, yeah, we got to do it. So
it's not a horrible pick. I just don't know how confident I would be in Bo Nix at this point in time.
I guess, like, I could probably say this for everyone, but guess we'll see.
So this actually, I think, tied the record for the most quarterbacks taken in the first round, and they were all within the first 12 picks.
Yeah,
That's kind of insane for 6 quarterbacks in the first 12. That's 50%. That's, like, you don't see this every time there's a draft. This is something that, like, we're kind of expecting a lot of quarterbacks to go early. A lot of teams need good quarterbacks, but, like, this was essentially unheard of up to this point. Only one other time this happened.
Yeah, I mean, think about, what was it, 2022? We only had 1 quarterback going in the first round, and then was it last year? Last year we had 2, obviously. Do we have more than that?
Last year we had C.J. Stroud and
Bryce Young.
Bryce Young.
Did anyone else?
Not to my knowledge that I can think of immediately.
I don't.
I feel like there's one that I'm missing.
Yeah, I feel like there might be
we'll say
more.
like 2 to 3.
2 to 3. So.
But either way, that's not even close to.
No.
It's almost double that amount.
Yeah, it's obviously the most important position, and teams go crazy for it. It's so nice to have a good young quarterback who's on the rookie deal because they're super cheap and you don't have to pay them a lot, and then you can spend that money on weapons, a defense, and all sorts of other things. And that just, like, Joe Burrow and the Bengals made it to the Super Bowl in his second year. Like, that was super helpful. But now obviously they're paying him a lot more, so they might not keep T. Higgins now. And I know Trey Hendrickson asked for a trade. So that's typically why teams jump up and trade up for that QB typically.
Yeah.
Number 13, a little surprising here, Brock Bowers, tight end out of Georgia. I like the player. The team is kind of weird, but I don't want to say it's necessarily a bad pick.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of those best available options, kind of. The Raiders altogether are kind of just weird for me. They're a good team, but they're also a bad team in my eyes. It's weird. I don't really have, like, a solid ground for them. Are they starting Gardner Minshew or are they starting Ian O'Connell?
I would start Gardner Minshew personally.
Like, I feel like that makes the most sense, yeah. But in general, like, having a good tight end is always nice. You're never going to complain. It's another option. But I don't know how much this is going to fully improve the Raiders. Like I said, the Raiders I already see as, like, a solid team, but not a good team. So it's like, how much is this going to elevate their play?
Yeah, I don't. Their defense was top 10 in scoring last year, so they took a big step up. Their defense has been pretty bad for a while, and then last year they took Michael Mayer in the second round, so I assume they're probably gonna run both of them. Maybe Brock Bowers could honestly just play receiver or running back. Honestly,
Yeah.
he can go anywhere they need him. He doesn't have to play tight end, so good player. We'll have to see how the pick pans out.
Mm-hmm.
See how they use him. Number 14, Saints take offensive tackle out of Oregon State, Tylese Fuaga.
Mm-hmm.
This fits a need, really, and they needed to tackle.
Yeah.
So,
Buffing up the offensive line. Most teams a lot of teams actually need that. A lot of teams didn't draft that because it's like you need better value at other places. But overall, this is a solid pick. Nothing special, but nothing out of the ordinary.
another one that was a surprise to me is Colts get Latu, edge rusher out of UCLA. I thought they were going corner, 100%,
Mm-hmm.
but you can never have too many good edge rushers. A front seven
Absolutely.
that's always getting sacks and pressure is very valuable in today's NFL.
Mm-hmm.
So, I like the pick, but I hear he's kind of injury prone.
Yeah, and that's something to be a little bit worried about, especially with edge rushers. Injury-prone edge rushers tend to have like really high upside, but also can be really, as most injury-prone players aren't really something you're going to be fully consistent with. And this was actually the first defensive player taken in the draft, wasn't it? I believe that's
yeah.
a record for the longest any draft has gone without a defensive player draft. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it took about halfway through the draft before we really started getting there. And then a lot of these defensive players started going later. But I like the pick.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Definitely thought it was corner, though. I mean, I'm not a Colts fan, so can't really complain anymore.
Yeah.
16, Seattle takes Byron Murphy, the second defensive tackle out of Texas. They needed pass rush. He's one of the best there is.
Mm-hmm.
So, solid pick, really.
Absolutely. A lot of and that's what's going to be a very common theme with a lot of these. A lot of these are not going to be anything like, oh, this is going to really help the team. It's going to be like the best thing for them. It's more of just a solid pick. This is going to help them, but it's not like a team-defining pick. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Another one I like, Vikings take Dallas Turner. They trade back in for Dallas Turner, edge out of Alabama. I thought he was going to Atlanta at 8, so for the Vikings to get him at 17, I think is very nice.
Mm-hmm.
They got a lot of, I don't even know what I'm saying. This is obviously their Danielle Hunter replacement.
Yeah.
I think he will be very good. Is Brian Flores still on the Vikings as their defensive coordinator? I don't know. But if he's still there, I think he'll be very good. I think it was a great move to trade up for him. They traded back with Jacksonville, who we'll get to in a bit, actually. They're almost up here.
Brian Flores enters his second season with the Minnesota Vikings as defensive coordinator in 2024.
So,
yeah.
I like that. That's a good pick.
Yeah, building that defense. The Vikings had a weaker defense last year, right? I remember there were some games where, I feel like they were really good. Like, that Raiders game was insane. I think they lost that, right? Or did they win the 0-3 Raiders game?
0-3?
Yeah, there was a Raiders and Vikings game where there was only 3 points scored the entire game. They were tied for the least points scored.
I do not remember that.
That happened. I remember. I wasn't watching it, but hold up. Let me look it up. Yeah, the Minnesota Vikings won 3-0. It was an absolutely insane game. No points were scored until, right until the end in quarter 4. It was absolutely insane. They just kept going back and forth, a lot of punts. Minnesota Vikings did end up winning that with only a field goal.
That game was probably really boring to watch.
Most likely.
I could not imagine that. I'm turning that off. All right, next pick at 18, Bengals take Amarius Mims, offensive tackle out of Georgia. Obviously, O-line has been something they needed since Joe Burrow has been drafted.
Mm-hmm.
Amarius Mims, I hear, is a very big dude, physically.
Mm-hmm.
And but he's kind of raw talent, needs some development. So, I guess we'll see.
This is a good offense to develop him in my opinion. I think he'll strive and thrive here.
I mean, worst case scenario, they'll probably be good again this year. Just take another tackle.
Mm-hmm.
So, I feel like every tackle they've taken or signed in free agency, it's just not worked out.
Yeah, the Bengals have been like kind of rough recently in terms of their offense, especially. We saw Joe Burrow having problems last year. We saw essentially everyone on their team not either getting injured or just having something come up. So I feel like trying to protect Joe Burrow is smart. Obviously, you want to protect your star quarterback, but I just don't know at this point how much it's going to help in terms of beefing it up.
Guess we'll see. Joe Burrow's had 2 season-ending injuries already in his career.
Mm-hmm.
One was the ACL in his rookie year, and then what's his, a hand injury this year?
It was, yeah. He came into, I remember his last game, he came into it with a cast, and like when he threw, he like pulled something, and I think that was the end of it.
He's also dealing with like an ankle injury earlier too,
Yeah.
or something like calf or something.
Burrow's been very unhealthy recently, which is kind of concerning. If I was a Bengals fan, I'd be very concerned about that coming into the season. I don't know if it's going to be nearly as bad, but I would think that they should just kind of, if at the beginning of the season he's still kind of dealing with it, sit him out for a couple games. It's better to have him good for the rest of the year than just the beginning of the year.
Yeah. Number 19, Rams take Jared Verse, edge rusher out of Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to assume that this is probably to fill the gap that Aaron Donald left after retiring. Obviously, those are some big shoes to fill, but
Yeah.
I think it's a good team to get on. It probably would have helped if he got to learn from Aaron Donald, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe Aaron Donald stops by the building occasionally and teaches him some things.
You know, getting that solid edge rusher to replace Sam Darnold. Obviously, they're never going to be Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was an absolute beast.
Aaron
Darnold, my bad. I was thinking of the other guy. But in general, I think that this is a really good pick that's just going to kind of fill that hole that they had. And as you said, try to just fill Aaron Donald's shoes.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these picks I can't say I'm like upset with because it was a need. They filled it.
Yeah.
20, Pittsburgh Steelers take Troy Fautanu, offensive tackle out of Washington. They're talking about during the draft that the GM and head coach Mike Tomlin were probably like, okay, let's start playing Steelers football again.
Mm-hmm.
Big run game, tough defense. So offensive line's been kind of a problem for them a while. It's kind of halted Najee Harris's production a bit.
Uh-huh.
So hopefully they got a tackle last year and a tackle this year. So hopefully they can finally get things going.
Yeah. I don't know that much about the Steelers offense, honestly, but I know they had that one really good defensive player, so I think
That one, and it's just T.J. Watt.
I know, but like having that really good guy on defense and having a lot of solid guys on offense, they should hopefully be able to perform here this upcoming season.
Yeah, moving on to your Miami Dolphins. They take
Woo!
Chop Robinson, edge rusher out of Penn State.
Honestly, not what I was expecting. It might have just been my hopes. I was hoping we were gonna get what was his name, Xavier Howard, or Xavier Worthy. I was hoping to get him. I heard that Mike McDaniel was really keen on him, but you know, I don't think it's a bad idea to get Chop Robinson here. We have had injuries with our edge rushers for a little bit. Bradley Chubb last year was kind of had that injury late in the season, and we had Jalen Phillips who like mid-season got injured. So having another solid edge rusher there who could kind of learn from them, and if we need them, use him as one of our edge rushers. I don't think it's a bad pick. I think it's a definitely best available position, but you know, I was still hoping for that really fast wide receiver to build on that.
Yeah, I guess ultimately it's not Mike McDaniel's decision on that. So
Yeah.
he does have an influence, but not enough apparently. On to the Eagles at 22, and I hate this pick because it's very good.
Mhm.
It's Quinyon Mitchell, cornerback out of Toledo. It stinks that probably the best corner in the draft falls to the Eagles.
Yeah.
They didn't have to trade. They were looking to trade up, and he just falls to them because how many offensive players went like so early in the first round.
You know, just kind of getting that. I mean, Jacksonville was like the spot that he was supposed to land in, right? Originally, that good cornerback they were hoping to get.
Around there. He
So-
was definitely in talks there.
The fact that Jacksonville ended up behind them, I feel like the Eagles kind of were confident they would get him, and ended up getting him. And I think it's going to really help this Eagles because I remember Eagles' run defense was really solid last year. The passing defense.
Pass defense was pretty bad.
So getting that good cornerback to kind of start building that passing defense will be really good for this team. And I hate to say it, Eagles are looking up right now.
Yeah, and their second round pick also makes me very unhappy. We'll probably get to him later. So
Absolutely.
you'll never be happy when you're a Giants fan. This next pick, 23, bounced around a lot. This was really Cleveland's pick. Then it went to Houston in the Deshaun Watson trade, and then they traded to Minnesota, and then Minnesota traded to Jacksonville, who take Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU receiver. I thought he was going to be a Bill, but I think it's a good pick. They lose Calvin Ridley and they sign Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis is all right, but obviously they're injecting some youth there in their receiving core. Christian Kirk obviously still there. Is Zay Jones still there? I don't even know.
Zay Jones, I think, is still there, but he might have been.
He got injured or like arrested or something. I remember. There's something going on with him. I'm not sure entirely, but hopefully this helps Trevor Lawrence get back to how he was playing 2 years ago. Obviously, it was kind of a rough year last year for Jags.
So Zay Jones signed a 3-year, $24 million contract with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
When?
And that goes from 2022 to 2024. So this will be his last year.
Okay, so yeah, he's on his last year. So just beefing up, excuse me, the receiving core.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good pick. I for sure thought he was going to be a Bill, but here we are.
Hey, you can't complain, man. You know, I think that the Jacksonville Jaguars were kind of iffy with wide receiver last year. You know, Calvin really added a lot to that it kind of made everything kind of wishy-washy. So I think getting that young wide receiver is really going to open up what this offense was missing with Calvin Ridley, and having Gabe Davis and him there will really, I think, will be combined better than Calvin Ridley, hopefully.
Yeah, that's what you can hope for. They traded for 1 year of Calvin Ridley, and it didn't really work out.
Yeah.
So hopefully this can fill that gap.
Mm-hmm.
24, the Lions go Terrion Arnold, cornerback out of Alabama, traded with Dallas to get here. I like the pick. I think that was probably their weakest spot on the entire team, and they got arguably the best one. You can make the argument for it, and I think it's just a good pick. And Detroit fans seemed happy there in Detroit at the draft about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yet again, Lions all around are pretty solid right now. Good at most offensive positions and good at most defensive positions. I will agree that cornerback was kind of their weakest point. So building that up, I think this team is just going to be all around like a solid. It's going to be the like, when you ask for an example of a solid team, it's going to be Detroit every single time.
Yeah. Amon-Ra was the highest paid receiver in NFL history for all of a day before A.J. Brown got his contract extension from the Eagles.
Yep.
But moving on to 25, the Packers take offensive lineman Jordan Morgan from Arizona. I'm not too familiar with him. I didn't know he was supposed to go here, but I don't know.
You know, offensive lineman, making sure that your quarterback stays healthy. Very basic, very obvious pick. You know,
probably the thought process there.
Not the worst thing in the world. I don't know how happy Green Bay Packers fans are with it. I haven't heard much.
Did you see Tom Grassi's video?
I saw it, but I don't know what he was super upset about.
He didn't seem like upset. He just was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what it is a lot of the time. If you get like an offensive lineman or an edge rusher, sometimes it's kind of just like, okay, that's cool, it's good, but it's not like something that like, oh, this is our young quarterback who's going to change our future. You know, it's more of just that works. It'll help us. It is what it is.
Yeah. So guess we'll see how that works out. Just protecting Jordan Love, really. Tampa Bay at 26 takes Graham Barton, center out of Duke. I assume they probably would have gone offensive lineman here at this point. Mm-hmm. One of their linemen just retired this offseason, so they got arguably the best center in the draft. So good pick all around.
Again, can't be mad at it. Just one of those solid picks that it is what it is.
Yeah. And then 27, that's all I'm saying. Jesus. Never mind. Darius Robinson, defensive end out of Missouri, goes to the Cardinals. They needed the two things they needed this draft was pass rush and receiver, and they got both of those, which
pretty solid picks at both.
Can't be upset if you're a Cardinals fan now. It was looking pretty rough these past couple of years, but it's looking fresh. They got a new GM who looks, from what I've seen, takes the job very seriously, and he wants to make the franchise good.
Cardinals are looking. It's not as good a situation as the Bears. I think the Bears are like this season's obvious. We're gonna be really good, but like Cardinals could be that like dark horse team that could make it to the playoffs this year. I could see that happening. Now they do have a tough division with Niners, Rams, and Seahawks, all solid teams. I don't think they could win the division because I think Niners are still all around just better.
Mm-hmm.
But they could probably beat the Rams and the Seahawks for that number 2 spot in their division.
Yeah, potentially squeeze in the playoffs there, even maybe.
Absolutely.
28 Chiefs trade with Buffalo, and I hope Skinner's watching right now because I need to know his opinion on this. They trade with Buffalo, and they get Xavier Worthy, and so this is Bills fans were not very happy. First of all, if you're a Bills fan, you have to wait till 28 for your team to pick, which is like 3 hours into the draft because it just takes so long. Then they trade back, so you gotta wait even longer, and they trade with their rival, and give them assumed to be what's gonna be their next Tyreek Hill. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Xavier Worthy set the combine record fastest 40 time at a 4.21. So, well, I guess we'll see if this bites Buffalo again, like it did with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a Buffalo fan. I do not like the Buffalo Bills. I don't hate them. I just don't like them.
I wonder why.
However, there is one team I always will agree with on Buffalo Bills fans that is worse than the Buffalo Bills, and that's the Chiefs. I don't like the Chiefs. I don't like. It's just like the Patriots thing all over again. Everyone hated them because they kept winning. It's what's going to happen here. I don't like them, and I'm mad because this is who I wanted. So seeing them go to the Chiefs makes me more upset about it, because you're having the fastest wide receiver go to an offense with Patrick Mahomes. You're losing. They're probably losing Rashee Rice for a little bit because of his incident, but I think Xavier Worthy might just be better than that.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange pick, obviously, because they traded with the Chiefs when the Bills needed a receiver.
Mm-hmm.
My assumption is that the guy they eventually get, they knew they could get later and gain more draft capital.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, it's an interesting choice, but they assumed to get their guy. We'll get to they picked first in the second round, so we'll get to that in a minute.
Yep.
29, Cowboys take Tyler Guyton, offensive tackle out of Oklahoma. I assume they probably would have gone lineman here. They lost Tyron Smith this offseason, so they're rebuilding that offensive line again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yet again. We say this for almost every offensive tackle. It is what it is. It's a good pick. It's just helping to beef that line up and keep your quarterback safe.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really much to talk about.
Once you get to the 7th one, it's more or less the same.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't too many that are like, oh, I wouldn't have picked that guy there, but that's about it, really. 30, Baltimore Ravens take Nate Wiggins, cornerback out of Clemson. I kind of thought they would go receiver here, but I think cornerback's good. The problem with Nate Wiggins is he's kind of like thin. He doesn't have a lot of weight to him, so there are questions about him on press coverage and tackling.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess we'll see. If there's anywhere I think that he can be good, and I think it's in Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore's already a very solid defense and always, for like a long time, has been. So I didn't think that they were weak at cornerback, so this did surprise me a little bit. I thought they were probably going to go wide receivers, so I don't think it's a horrible pick. I just think I was expecting something different from them.
Yeah, but you get kind of down the board here. The wide receiver, there's still some good ones left, but they're starting to go a little more.
Yeah.
So, I guess, their GM, Ozzie Newsome, phenomenal GM, knows how to draft, so I think I can trust him on this pick.
Yeah.
49ers at 31 take Ricky Pearsall, wide receiver out of Florida. This one I did not expect at all.
Mm-hmm.
I assume this will probably be the replacement for whichever receiver they intend on trading, potentially, whether that be Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk. Not the guy I would have taken, personally, but maybe they think he fits their scheme and they like him as a player.
So do you think, who would you think is better than Ricky Pearsall here?
The guy who went after him, Xavier Legette, and then Keon Coleman, who went to the Bills in the second round. Adonai Mitchell, who went, pick 50 to the Colts, who fell super far because he had character concerns.
Mm.
But, yeah, there's probably some others, but I can't think of any more off the top of my head.
I think it's mostly a lot of teams will just be like, this is the guy we want, and we like him for this reason.
Yeah.
Whether or not that's like
Draft
what
for
is the
scheme
general
fit.
consensus, just if that's who you want, you think he's going to do on your team, I don't see why not. Why not to have him?
Yeah. Panthers trading back in 32, back in the first round with the Bills. They take Xavier Leggett. I think that's a phenomenal pick for them, helping Bryce Young out a bit, getting him a good receiver there. I don't.
They got 3 solid wide receivers now. If I don't know that much about Xavier Leggett actually, but Deontay Johnson and Adam Thielen being there along with this third guy, it's a solid wide receiver core. You can't complain with that. Now, how much that will help with Bryce Young, yet to be determined. But I think overall, pretty good pick for where they were.
I want to say Carolina took a running back in the second or third, maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
Last year they had Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders.
Yeah, I want to say that's what happened, but I don't know for sure. So definitely giving him some weapons. Moving on to the second round, the Bills take Keon Coleman, wide receiver at Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
As I was saying, I probably would have taken him over Ricky Pearsall. I thought Keon Coleman could have slipped there into the first round. Just misses out. But Bills get their receiver to replace Stephon Diggs, obviously. And they got Curtis Samuel in place of Gabe Davis. Bills kind of had a rough offseason. So there was a lot of holes.
You think Keon Coleman will fill that Stephon Diggs role, or do you think it's going to take a
I think it's going to take a bit. It's kind of hard to right away match the production that Diggs had, especially to the level he was. Obviously, kind of had an up and down season the past year, but yeah.
Giving Josh Allen that option, though, is really what they need at this point.
Yeah, I think, I hate to say it, but the Super Bowl window is probably closing.
Yeah, And it sucks for Bills fans, especially because, such high hopes coming into almost every season. Really good defense, really good offense. Not as good as the Dolphins, but, really good in general. And you see it kind of all start to dwindle away when you get into the playoffs and you see the Chiefs there. It just sucks sometimes.
Yeah, sorry, Skinner, but it's the truth.
I'm not sorry, but, it is the truth, yeah.
Pick 34. Chargers take Ladd McConkey, wide receiver out of Georgia. This is another guy I would have taken over Ricky Pearsall. Obviously, Chargers needed a receiver. We talked about it earlier. To fill in the need. Like I said, they took Joe out, assuming they could get a guy in the second round. And they got him right there.
Absolutely. Deep wide receiver class, so a lot of good options later on. So, overall, I think it worked out for the Chargers. If there was, obviously Bears won this draft so far. But if there was, a team in, the top 5, I feel like Chargers would definitely be there right now.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, Chargers have a lot of room to improve, so that might be why.
Yeah.
But, overall, Chargers getting that wide receiver, getting that, was that offensive tackle? I don't remember.
Yeah, they took Joe out.
Yeah, so getting both of those positions help is going to be really good for them. And I wonder, do you think they'll be able to beat the Raiders? Because I feel like it's between them and the Raiders for the number 2 in that division.
I think they probably could.
Mm-hmm.
I think they'd probably split maybe one game each.
Yeah. All right.
Number 35, Atlanta Falcons take. Pardon my pronunciation, but I believe it's pronounced Rook Orohoro. Don't know. The guy at the draft who called it absolutely butchered his name apparently, so I'm not really sure. But defensive tackle out of Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
This is their pass rush they should have taken in the first round, but they get it here, so I guess it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, Falcons kind of just all around very solid. This is probably their year to they got 1 to 3 or 4 years to be okay, we're gonna make it to not Super Bowl, but we're gonna make it into the playoffs at least. I don't know how much longer is Drake London on his rookie deal still, or is he?
I believe so. He's was he 2022, I believe. So he's got 1 more year after this. I think.
So they have that kind of short window where they have all these solid weapons. So I feel like at this point they're really just trying to make sure they got everything they need, where they're confident that they can try to make something happen.
Yeah. Hopefully that pass rush actually helps out, because they haven't had a double-digit. Yeah, I haven't had a guy with double-digit sacks since 2016. So hopefully they can actually get to the quarterback here. 36 Commanders go Jarzon Newton, defensive tackle, Illinois. It stinks when the Commanders are actually making competent picks. So
Really?
yeah.
See,
Tough to see as a Giants fan.
as a Dolphins fan, I see no problem with this, and I think it's an all-around solid pick, honestly.
I mean, yeah, they lost Chase Young
Mm-hmm.
and Montez Sweat, so they needed some pass rush. I know they still got Jonathan Allen there, but pass rush is pass rush. Very important position. It's probably like number 2 behind quarterback.
Absolutely.
5, the Patriots take Jalen Polk, wide receiver out of Washington. Probably would have gone a different receiver here personally,
Mm-hmm.
but he seemed pretty solid from when I was watching the draft. Like we said before, they need a receiver,
Yeah.
so they take the receiver there. Nothing more than just getting your new quarterback some weapons to throw to, really.
Absolutely. Building that quarter. I don't know, like, statistically, but I feel like building that quarterback and wide receiver combo early and having them both be rookies is a lot. It helps, like, to build that team connection and really, I'm not sure if he'll rely on him, but, like, he'll be definitely one of his favorite targets most likely going forward.
Very likely. Number 6, Titans get Tavondre Sweat, defensive tackle out of Texas. Once again, just building the trenches on both sides of the ball for the Titans. Obviously gets to learn from Jeffrey Simmons
Mm-hmm.
there on the Titans, one of the best defensive tackles in the league.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, again, Titans, I'm sorry. Very, very early for me in the morning. I'm really tired still.
Mhm.
But Titans really building that defensive line and the offensive line, really just cementing themselves as one of the best defenses in the league. So I think this will really help them, and I think it's just going to boost what is already a really good defense.
Yeah. Like I said numerous times, you can never have too much good pass rush. Number 39, the Rams take defensive tackle Brandon Fisk out of Florida State. Earlier in the first round, they took Jared Verse from Florida State, so they take 2 Florida State players. And they when they ran his bio thing, when they were doing the Senior Bowl
Mhm.
for scouting and all that, they went to an elementary school, and a lot of kids said he looked like Travis Kelce, and he didn't have the heart to tell him that he wasn't Travis Kelce.
Damn.
So he's now Travis Kelce, apparently.
That's a good pick for them. Getting Travis Kelce in the 39th overall pick is really solid, and I think it will really help the Los Angeles Rams cement themselves as a good team.
Yeah, honestly, I mean he does play defensive tackle, so that is also just another boost to the Aaron Donald left hole there.
Absolutely.
40, the dang Eagles get another good corner.
I'm just going to let you have the floor because you expressed before that you were not happy with this pick as a Giants fan.
The rich get richer,
Mm-hmm.
Cooper John should have gone in the first round, and as someone who I wanted the Giants to take in the second round, but the Eagles don't. The Eagles have just been so good the past couple of years, and it stinks as a Giants fan. And the thing is, he can play cornerback, and he can also play safety.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe they move him back at safety, and they just have Quinion Mitchell there. So,
Yeah.
Eagles get arguably 2 of the top 3 cornerbacks in the draft. And it says here they traded up for this one, but the first one they did not.
So you think it's like a feast or famine type situation where you think the Giants probably needed it more, and you're upset that the Giants didn't end up getting it?
Yeah, and then the next pick at 41, Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama, cornerback, is someone who I also wanted, but he went way too early for us. And fun fact, his name is not actually Kool-Aid. That is just a nickname, but he likes to go by that.
Mm-hmm. I'm noticing here 4 cornerbacks went in a row. So do you think this was like a cornerback rush, or do you think it was just best available happened to be?
No, I think it's a quarterback run for sure. Like you're saying, another cornerback. Texans take Kamari Lassiter out of Georgia, and Cardinals take Max Melton out of Rutgers. Not too familiar with either of these prospects, but
Okay,
I assume there are probably needs for both these teams.
Yeah. You can't be mad with these yet again. We talked about the Cardinals and how about they're trying to build that defense and offense that can probably go to the playoffs this year. Did Texans have a first-round pick this year?
No, they traded to Minnesota.
So I think Texans are all around solid, so kind of waiting until longer to try to get those good cornerbacks, or I don't know what else they got in the third. But I think this is overall a solid pick for them. I don't think Texans had a bad defense at all, but I think cornerback was something they kind of struggled with those deep balls they had a little iffy on. So I think getting this young cornerback will actually help them a lot as a team.
Yeah, definitely a big contender this year.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, with the Diggs trade and all that, signed Joe Mixon as well. It helps when your quarterback is extremely good and he's on this rookie
Absolutely.
deal.
Absolutely. Have those great wide receivers, got really good running back, tight end is solid. This is probably their year to, if they want to try to go to a Super Bowl, this could be their year possibly. Honestly. I don't know if they can be. I don't
Maybe.
think they will. I think there's much better teams in that division, but I wasn't thinking that they were going to beat the Browns last year, and they beat the Browns. So hey, anything could happen, man.
Yeah, just got to beat the Chiefs, so the team to beat.
Absolutely.
If you can do that, you probably can make the Super Bowl. 44, at pick 44, Raiders go Jackson Powers Johnson, center out of Oregon. This is who Josh was saying he really wanted for the Cowboys,
Mm-hmm.
and he was pretty upset when they didn't get him. And I think I know Giants took one of their offensive linemen in free agency, so I assume that's to fill that hole there.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, solid pick. Lineman, really hard to mess up
Yeah.
unless
Overall.
you're taking a guy who's not supposed to go where he's going.
Yeah, yet again, a lot of these positions are just best available. You need this position. Oh, this guy's here. He's available. Let's just take him,
Yeah, sometimes it might not even be a need, but it's just best player available.
Honestly,
You can't
yeah.
pass up on the player. 45, Packers go Edgerrin Cooper out of Texas A&M. He's a linebacker. I don't know. I feel like the Packers lost someone notable in their linebacker core, but I don't think they did. Because I think Devondre Campbell was still there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm not sure if he's a outside linebacker or interior linebacker.
I'm not exactly sure either.
Nah, I don't know. Guess we'll see. Overall, I don't really know about this pick, so I'm gonna give him a good because I can.
I'm gonna give him a 7 out of 10 on the pick overall.
Yeah, there you go. Oh yeah, here's the running back Carolina took. They took Jonathan Brooks, running back out of Texas. I believe after the first round, it was reported that Jerry Jones said he's very high on this running back, which means he's not getting them anymore. So, I think this is a good pick. Obviously, Miles Sanders didn't really work out last year,
Mm-hmm.
and Chuba Hubbard he's all right, but
Not that.
there's definitely better running backs.
Mm-hmm.
So I assume he actually sat behind Bijan at Texas, so he got to shine this year.
Uh-huh. This was the first running back taken, right?
Yes, I believe so.
So, best available running back on the board. I wouldn't be too upset with this. Panthers already in kind of a situation after losing that first overall pick to the Bears. So, I think trying to just kind of build more weapons around Bryce Young. I think having a really good run game allows your quarterback to thrive a lot more.
Oh,
So
definitely.
trying to get that running back that they can start to build up with Bryce Young, I think is going to be really good for them.
Giants at 47 take Tyler Nubin, safety out of Minnesota, and I like the pick. It was definitely a need. I assumed they were going to go corner, but safety works for me as well. Definitely need. We lost McKinney in the offseason,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully he can be a solid replacement for him.
Absolutely. Giants really solid defense overall, and I think this will just help them grow more.
The more I think about it, we're actually not that bad of a team talent-wise. It's just execution, and then obviously Daniel Jones.
But that's the thing. Quarterback matters a lot in the current NFL league. It doesn't matter if you have no wide receivers and you have a solid, running back and an okay tight end. You can still make it to the Super Bowl because you're Patrick Mahomes. However, if you're Daniel Jones or Brock Purdy and you have every single weapon around you, there's only so far you can get.
Yeah, I think they're trying to go back to typical Giants football of a good run game
Mhm.
and a solid defense. If we get that done with Singletary, I don't really know. But I like Singletary. I think he's a consistent guy. Obviously not Saquon Barkley, but
Yeah,
it could be worse, definitely.
absolutely.
Jacksonville Jaguars at 48 go Mason Smith, defensive tackle out of LSU. They are loading up on the D-line. I know they signed some guys in free agency that's past March
Mm-hmm.
or February. I don't even remember what the free agency was.
Yeah, it was in. I think it was in March. I think it was beginning of March, I think.
Yeah. Oh, a lot of defensive tackles going here in the second round. Another one in the next pick we'll get to in a bit. So, obviously,
Yeah.
I don't really know much about these prospects after the first round, so I don't really have too much of an opinion.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of this falls into, is that a lot of these scouts and a lot of these teams know who they want and know this solid picks here, but like, as someone who's not in those rooms deciding, it doesn't matter nearly as much.
Mm-hmm. 49 Bengals take Chris Jenkins, defensive tackle out of Michigan. Just beefing up the pass rush. I feel like a broken record here.
Yeah.
I know Trey Hendrickson requested a trade along with T. Higgins, so maybe if they do trade him, that's like kind of like their replacement in a way.
Yeah.
I know they had B.J. Hill there. Don't know if he's still there. I want to say he is. Don't have to fact check for me.
B.J. Hill contract. B.J. Hill signed a 3-year contract with the Cincinnati Bengals for including a $10 million signing bonus and $13 million guaranteed. It does not tell me when this was signed, though.
Now that I think about it, it might have been like recent. So I think he's still there. I guess it depends on their scheme. For a lot of these teams, really, do they like to run 3-4 or 4-3? So they might need 2 defensive tackles. You never know.
Yeah. I'm not seeing when it was signed, so signed a 4. So this is 2018 and 2021. That's not the current one. 2022 to 2024.
All right, so he's on his
3
last
year,
year,
yeah.
so that's probably why they took him.
That makes sense.
All right, 50, Commanders take Mike Sainristil. I think I pronounced that wrong, but cornerback out of Michigan. They drafted Emmanuel Forbes in the first round last year. Didn't really work out that well, so I assume this is kind of their insurance policy on him.
Absolutely.
Yeah. 51, pitcher receivers take Zach Frazier, center out of West Virginia. They are really beefing up the O-line.
They really need it too, though.
That is a lot of help there. They got 2 tackles now. They got a center. So I think Najee Harris should be doing a lot better this year.
Hopefully. I think that's what they want to do. They want to establish that run game a lot more. They lost George Pickens, so not relying on their passing as much is probably going to help them a lot here.
52, this is finally where Adonai Mitchell goes, wide receiver at Texas. I think he should have gone way earlier than this. Apparently there was character concerns, but the Colts GM said that was a bunch of BS. So we'll never know truly why he falls, I guess, until that comes out. I think it's great value. A guy who could have gone first round, you get 52.
Yeah.
Definitely some help for Anthony Richardson there. Beefing up their receiver core. You got Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, and Adonai Mitchell here now. So that Indy team probably have a very fun offense to watch.
Yeah, and I want to get on a little side tangent here. That division I always saw as kind of a weaker division in the AFC, but now it's starting to get kind of like up there in terms of like each team's strength. I feel like we both agree that Texans is probably the number 1 there.
Probably as of
Do
now.
you think it's Jacksonville, Titans, or Colts at number 2?
I think I'm gonna go Jacksonville just because the Colts are not really proven yet. I mean, they had a solid season last year with Gardner Minshew, but I'm trying to see where they can go with Anthony Richardson. I think they can go far if he can stay healthy. I think they could be a really good team, definitely a playoff contending team for sure.
Absolutely.
53, Commanders go Ben Sinnott, tight end, Kansas State. I believe they released Logan Thomas, who was their tight end for a while, so I think this is his replacement. I'm not familiar with him in any way, so I'm just going to assume he's good if he's going in the second round.
Hey, getting a new tight end for your new QB, never a bad option, honestly.
Nope. Browns at 54 take Michael Hall Jr., defensive tackle out of Ohio State. Browns got some pretty solid pass rushing going on over there in Cleveland. They got Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith. Is Clowney still there? I don't think Clowney's still there.
I'm not sure.
And then obviously now here, Michael Hall Jr. I feel like, again, broken record. Just Good value.
Absolutely.
Good pick. Dolphins take Patrick Paul, offensive tackle out of Houston. Thoughts on that, Dylan?
I think beefing up our offensive line isn't bad necessarily. Keeping Tua healthy and making sure he stays on the field is good. But I don't know how much we need it. I know our defense is all around solid, but I think I'd rather still have us beefing up our defense rather than beefing up our offense because I don't know if you knew we had one of the best offenses last year, and I know we lost a couple of pieces in that, but I don't think it was like. I don't think it's going to hinder us so much that we should be going full in on that, And I think we lose our third-round pick this year because of the tampering stuff with Tom Brady 2 years ago. I saw that. I'm not 100% on that.
Possibly.
I don't think we had our third round this year, so I almost feel like getting defense would have been better, but I'm not mad at it. It is what it is. Yet again, that's how it is for a lot of these things. It's just like, oh, offensive tackle? Sure, that's fine. I'll take it.
Yeah. 56, Cowboys go Marshawn Nealand, edge out of Western Michigan. I know DeMarcus Lawrence is getting kind of up there in age for the Cowboys, so probably getting some youth in there. They obviously still have Micah Parsons, and they got some other solid guys on the defensive line. They lost Randy Gregory a couple of years ago, who was pretty solid, just has some off-the-field issues, really.
Mm-hmm.
But, I'm not really a Cowboys supporter, I can't say.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
You're fine with
Hopefully he doesn't ruin my hopes and dreams in the next couple of years.
Oh, they always will. They
Yeah,
always do.
unfortunately, yeah. Tampa Bay at 57 takes Chris Braswell, edge out of Alabama. They lost Shaq Barrett to the Dolphins, so there you go. There's your replacement right there.
Yep, absolutely.
Packers at 58 take Javon Bullard, safety out of Georgia. I think it's a good pick. They needed defensive back. Obviously can play across from McKinney, who they signed in free agency. Once again, another need filled. Texans at 59 take offensive tackle Blake Fisher, and I didn't know that they really needed linemen. I thought they were pretty good at tackle.
I think they're pretty good, but yet again, since they already are so solid at almost everything, getting an insurance policy isn't necessarily bad here. So I understand the pick. I think it's a decent pick. Maybe just kind of a best available here.
I wonder if this is one of those guys who they think can move inside the guard or center, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Probably more likely guard, but
yeah.
I mean, like you said, Texans are pretty solid at most places, so could just been best player available.
Absolutely.
Bills take Cole Bishop, safety out of Utah. They lost both their safeties, right? I know they lost Jordan Poyer. I think they lost Micah Hyde too.
I don't know. Let me look that up real quick while you talk about it.
I'm pretty sure they did. So the Bills' secondary was just kind of gutted. I think their defense in general was just kind of gutted.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely some good value there for them. Obviously, they're still kind of lacking at corner. They lost Tre'Davious White. They do have Rasul Douglas, but losing both their All-Pro, Pro Bowl safeties does not really help them.
Yeah, so it was a 2022 to 2023 extension. So that ended last year. So he is either on free agency or he's somewhere else now.
This is for Micah Hyde?
Yes.
All right.
He's no longer on the Bills, though.
All right. So, yeah, that's probably why they took the safety.
Mm-hmm.
Lions go corner again. They take Ennis Rakestraw Jr., cornerback out of Missouri. Like, some of the Texans, they're not very thin at a lot of places, but corner is definitely the one they are.
Yeah.
So they're really filling that one out.
Absolutely.
Ravens take Roger Rosengarten, offensive tackle out of Washington. I know they were having some offensive line issues with injuries, I believe, this past couple of years. So
yeah,
hoping that he can stay healthy and provide, obviously, the dominant run game that
looking for.
They always like to do, really, with Lamar and Derrick Henry now,
Absolutely.
actually. So
keeping him healthy will definitely be a very important thing for the Ravens. So I think doing this is just more of we're doing the best we can to make sure he has a chance to succeed.
Yes. Chiefs take Kinsley Suamataia. I definitely just butchered that.
Mm-hmm.
Offensive tackle out of BYU. I know they got some older guys on the offensive line. I assume this is just get some youth.
Yeah, absolutely. Just making sure you stock up now while you can.
Mm-hmm. And the last pick of the second round, 49ers take Renardo Green. That's a fire name.
Absolutely.
Cornerback out of Florida State. I think this is like the only other need the 49ers really had was cornerback.
Yeah.
So
Solid.
overall, yeah. Very interesting couple days of the draft. Obviously, day one is always the controversial and the most hyped up one.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times, your second round of picks, even later, might even be the best player out of your draft class. So I guess we'll have to see. We got a lot of time to sit on it. I believe round three was yesterday as well. I don't think we're gonna cover that, right?
No, I think we've seen a lot at this point. A lot of the things are just kind of solid, good choices. The longer you go, the more it's just like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's good.
I believe 4 through 7 is tonight.
Yes.
And it's weird because first round you get 10 minutes to pick. Second round you get 7, and then after 5, or it's 5 for third round. So it moves so much faster
Mm-hmm.
than the first round, which is like I know they do it to elongate it because it's like more money, more commercials, and all that. But it's just so boring to watch. Like, it was 4 hours.
So it's more of just, I feel like, to give the teams time, because a lot of the time it's like when we do like our mock drafts, you want Rashad White so badly, and then I'm right before you and I take Rashad White. It's going to take you time to think. And now think about that as in like your career with this team and how good they're going to do. It makes sense to give them more time earlier on because that's when they're going to need it.
Yeah, I get that, but they have a draft board of who they want, and if they get taken, they got their next guy down. It's just
Trading calls are a lot more common too.
yeah. Also, like, I don't have a problem with it being 10 minutes. It's the fact that the pick would be in, and then we got to commercial, and then it's another 5 minutes
Mm-hmm.
until they pick, and then Roger Goodell comes out, says something, or introduces someone to tell the pick, and then we get to the pick. So I think it's just too long. Like,
Yeah, I
especially
can
for
understand.
teams like if you're a Bills fan or Chiefs fan, like, you pick late every year in the draft, and especially for Bills fans, they stayed up and they didn't pick in the first round. So it's got to be kind of infuriating for them. But, overall, exciting weekend for the draft.
Absolutely. This is a good draft. I think a couple records were broken and a couple were tied. I think this was overall pretty solid for every team, essentially, kind of getting what they need. I don't think anyone really failed this year in the draft. Obviously, people are going to point out Atlanta with that controversial pick at 8, but overall, I think solid picks from everyone buffing up what they need, and everyone getting what they need in this draft.
Yeah. Third round, I didn't see the third round. I'll just take a peek at it here. I don't think Spencer Rattler went. I'll scroll through for you guys here. Cooper Beebe to the Dallas. I like that pick a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Blake Corum to the Rams. I thought was very interesting. Someone I wanted on the Giants. I don't think Luke McCaffrey any relation to Christian. I don't know. I was really hoping Spencer Rattler's a Giant, so I guess we'll have to see in these next couple rounds here if they do that.
Absolutely.
Spencer Rattler originally was supposed to go first overall a couple years ago.
Really?
Then he got benched for Caleb Williams. So all comes full circle.
Absolutely.
We doing the fantasy mock now?
Yeah, so we're going to be doing a 18 PPR fantasy mock draft. And we've done one of these before on the channel, and it's just kind of a keep up thing. I like to do them every once in a while to kind of get a grasp on how things have changed, where I'm thinking everyone should go. So I think we're going to do one of those and overall just see how it goes again. Yeah.
Yeah. This is where we'll be picking in the draft here. I got 4th, so I'm picking 5th, and Dylan got 2nd, so he's picking 7th.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm really disappointed about that still. I think I should have won the league, and I think it was rigged personally, and I'd like to send a complaint to the commissioner personally.
That would be me.
Can I send a complaint to you right now?
We're not taking complaints at this time, so you have to wait.
So you're going to have to wait, too, because my thing isn't loading. Give me un momento.
All right. Well, if you are interested, here's your ADP from courtesy of Sleeper.com. It's our preferred choice of fantasy app. I'd recommend if you're looking to switch. A lot of great, helpful tools. Very easy UI to learn.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of customization, too. Overall, very solid. Been using Sleeper for about 3 years now. So
Absolutely. Are we ready here?
I am ready, yes.
All right, we're going to start the mock draft.
So, just want to point this out. The bots draft competently.
Very competent.
The people in our league do not draft competently.
Yeah.
And this will not be anything like our actual draft in August.
Most likely, we will be seeing a quarterback in round 1 or 2 that is not Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
Very common.
Last year, there was one of our league mates took Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. So then there was a run on quarterbacks, and then someone took a defense early, and then there was a run on defense. So I was stuck with Deshaun Watson as my quarterback. But I think the quarterback depth this year is a little deeper.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think it goes a lot deeper than your normal 5, 6 quarterbacks that are good. You got like 10 here that at least are solid.
Yeah. Like Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar, and Patrick Mahomes will probably go somewhere in this, like somewhere between now and the 7th round. You still got guys like Anthony Richardson, C.J. Stroud, Joe Burrow's falling because of the injury, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, Jordan Love. Justin Fields is iffy because he's probably not going to start right away.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Herbert's there. Brock Purdy, Tua, Trevor Lawrence, Stafford. Got Caleb Williams down here. So
There's some pretty good options this year.
yeah, it should be interesting. I took Amon-Ra St. Brown with my first pick, so Dylan's up now.
And I think it's pretty obvious what I take here. You got Jamar Chase on the board at your 7th pick. You're not going to pass up on Jamar Chase.
Mm-mm. I don't. It's pretty hard to do that. Sometimes the bots will do something funny, and you end up with like Justin Jefferson at pick 8. I mean, I like the variety, so it's not just like Tyreek Hill goes first, then CeeDee Lamb goes second, McCaffrey third every single time.
But like,
I think our league mates are competent enough to know that Jamar Chase shouldn't probably fall that far. I feel like the only reason he would is because people have concerns about Joe Burrow.
mm-hmm.
But I like to think about, it's similar for Garrett Wilson. Like, I don't know about Aaron Rodgers, but I think he's good enough to take. Like, he's a very solid fantasy player.
So I'm going to pick a little bit of a controversial pick because it's a lot. He's supposed to go a lot later, but I'm going to pick DJ Moore here. I really like DJ Moore, and I haven't been getting him in a lot of my drafts. And just me personally, I don't like A.J. Brown that much. I had him last year, and he was doing great at the beginning of the year. I was so happy. And then the later it got in the year, the worse and worse he did. And I blame him for losing my fantasy championship personally. I think getting like 5 points in the last game really screwed me over. So I don't like him that more. And Puka Nacua, I have nothing against. I just prefer DJ Moore over him.
Fair enough. I will also be passing on A.J. Brown for Jahmyr Gibbs. I actually took Jahmyr Gibbs last year, and everyone was like, why did you take Jahmyr Gibbs? And I knew, but then
You traded him.
I traded him away.
Actually, you didn't trade him away. What you did is you made a trade.
Oh, yeah, I made a trade. It was a 2-for-1 trade, so I needed to drop someone, and I didn't know who to drop, so I was like, yeah, I'll drop Jahmyr Gibbs. So.
And then he got picked up immediately after, and the trade became a lot worse.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out for me. Well, it kind of didn't at first, but I came back. I was 1-7 at one point, and I came back to finish 4th, so I can't really complain that much.
Absolutely.
This one, I'm going to take Brandon Ayuk. I'm really high on Brandon Ayuk. I don't care what team he's going to play for. He's just so good.
I like Brandon Ayuk. I don't like him that much, though.
Well, you don't know ball, so.
Oh, this is difficult. Jonathan Taylor falling all the way here? Do I just take Jonathan Taylor here, right?
I mean, yeah, he's dropped a whole projected round, so he's projected at 16. We're at 23 here.
So I think I'm just going to take Jonathan Taylor. Easy pick here. And then this is where it's difficult. I want Marvin Harrison or Michael Pittman here. But Saquon Barkley, Travis Etienne, or Rashad White, will one of those three fall to me next round?
Maybe, I don't know.
And that's the difficulty of picking at like the end of the snake is that there's a lot of solid choices, and you want this one solid guy, but there's a good chance it's not going to fall to you.
Yeah, the pros and cons. You get the back-to-back pretty easy, but then you got to wait a while.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to risk it for the biscuit here. I'm going to go Michael Pittman. I really like Michael Pittman. I think he's going to be solid this year. Doubling back on Indianapolis, I probably wouldn't actually do that during the draft, but you know. I think I'll be solid.
I was kind of hoping I was going to get Saquon Barkley there.
I know.
I kind of want to go Marvin Harrison. He's projected to go around here.
Marvin Harrison's pretty solid. I think he's going to do really good on this offense. So, as we touched on earlier, I think he's going to be a really good fantasy prospect.
I think last year I drafted a little too conservative than I wanted to, so I'm going to start drafting risky here.
Ooh, going risky.
Yes, sir.
All right, so far, There goes one of the running backs.
Yeah, I'm really hoping one of them falls to me. So
So most likely, if I had to guess, you were gonna take here, it'd be Rashad White.
yes, that is who I'm taking. Malik Neighbors is tempting, but I'm going to pass.
That's something I would like to touch on. I don't think taking Malik Neighbors in a draft is going to be smart. Not smart, but I don't think I'll be taking him within the first 6 or 7 rounds easily. I don't think he's good. The Giants, I'm really concerned about, and I don't know how much he's going to get. I think he'll get maybe 10 targets a game and 6 receptions maybe at most. I'm not too confident in his ability to make too many plays in the Giants.
Like I
scheme.
said, it's always a guess we'll see kind of thing.
Absolutely, we've talked about that all day.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I think here I'm going to go with the super obvious pick of Trey McBride because getting the last good tight end off the board is really, I think it's important. I think it's really slept on. I think getting that good tight end really helps improve teams overall.
But yeah, I mean, I think there's still some solid options later down the board at tight end, but obviously I'm missing out on the good ones.
I think Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Sam Laporta, and Trey McBride are just on a different level. So I think that's the real. I think that's for me a lot of the real value, and I really have been striving for a lot of my drafts. I really like getting one of those solid tight ends, so I can know for a majority of the year I'm going to be solid and good on that.
I mean, I think you're higher on Trey McBride than I am. I like Trey McBride, but I don't know if I'd take him at 5.7.
He was number 2 tight end last year, though, wasn't he? For a majority of the year.
I can check. I don't know.
Here, I am checking.
He was
right
number
now.
10.
He was number 10. Did he have I don't think he had a strong start, but he had a really strong finish.
Probably not. Let's see. PPR 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 2, 6, 8, 8, 10, 13, 11, 10, 11, 12, 12, 12. So
Yeah.
he was definitely picked it up after week 7, 8-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Second half of the season, really.
Yeah. So here is a little difficult for me. I don't like any of these wide receivers. I'm not big on Keenan Allen, Cooper Kupp, T. Higgins, and Amari Cooper. But at the same time, I'm not big on any of these running backs. But since I need a running back, I think I'm going to take James Conner here. I really like James Conner. I think he's super underrated. I think he'll really strive in this offense now that they have a solid wide receiver to go along with him.
I am going to take Lamar Jackson. I'm getting my quarterback. I am not going to be stuck with Deshaun Watson again.
What? You love Deshaun Watson, though.
And he was not good. Here, Romo Dunze is actually very tempting. Also Pacheco, though. Do I think I can get better running back value or receiver value is the question.
How do you feel about your running backs right now?
I have Rashad White and Gibbs, and I feel like Pacheco would kind of solidify that now.
Absolutely, but keep in mind with that other flex, wide receivers tend to do better just because of the PPR and having most points per reception. Pacheco does get receptions though, which does help a lot. So
I think I can get another good one there. I'm gonna take Dunze. I'm gonna get all the rookie receivers again like last year.
So I'm going to do what you did not. I'm going to take Pacheco here.
Yeah.
I think it's solid value, and I think he elevates any team he's on. But I've had him the last 2 years, and every single time he screwed me over. Whether that's I started him in the playoffs or I trade him away, someone else starts him in the playoffs and he does really good. So hoping to keep on to him this entire year. Another person I'm really high on is Christian Kirk. I think, obviously they drafted that new wide receiver and they got Gabe Davis, but I still think Christian Kirk is the obvious number 1 here, and I think he'll perform better than he did last year, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jacksonville is going to take a step this year to just be a higher level of play.
The bot once again taking the running back I want, so I'm gonna take Kenneth Walker here. Actually, kind of had a bit of a down year last year, but he's still pretty solid. I expect him to be pretty good again. Now here's interesting.
I know who I want this next pick, and I'm really just hoping that the AI doesn't draft
I think
him.
I know who you want.
Who do I want?
You want Stroud.
Absolutely. I think Stroud is going to be top 3 quarterback this year. His stats last year were amazing, and the only thing that
I would know.
The only thing I think he's missing is that rushing upside that Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts has, and Lamar partially, and Anthony Richardson. They all have that rushing upside, but I just think overall C.J. Stroud with all these offensive options is just going to be so much better and so many passing yards. I think he's going to be amazing. So as long as this Team 6 doesn't take him, or you,
I will not be taking him. I think I'm gonna take my tight end here and going to go Dalton Kincaid.
Ooh, I got lucky.
And there's two people I hope fall to me, and I think you'll probably take one of them. There's another person I think you might take.
So I take C.J. Stroud, obviously.
The bot took one of them.
I knew you wanted David Montgomery.
The bot took that guy. Bot's taking all my picks, man.
So I feel like it's either for you. You either really want Marquise Brown or Ramondre Stevenson. And I think I'm going to take Marquise Brown because I just need more wide receivers. I got 3 solid running backs. I think having another wide receiver will be good.
Those were the two that I was looking at. How many receiver? I got 4. No, I have 4 receivers, but 2 of them are flex. Who we got on the board now? What are receivers looking like? Watson, Dubs, Myers. I think I'll go Ramondre. I like Ramondre.
I think he's going to be a lot better this year with Drake May. I think Drake May will throw it to him a lot more than the last year, hopefully. And Ezekiel Elliott is possibly on his way out. There was talks with the Cowboys. It's nothing confirmed, but he might be leaving that offense sometime soon.
Mm-hmm. Here, the bot's just taking my picks all over the place here. We're at wide receiver. I need a receiver, but... do I want to go Deontay Johnson here?
I don't think you do, personally.
Why do you?
No, I hate Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, I'm taking him.
I tricked him, guys. I didn't want to take Deontay Johnson. I definitely was not looking at him. So there's something I'd like to touch on. They have
touchdown.
Touchdown! Woo-hoo! There's 3 things. There's 3 running backs here that I think are really solid and are right next to each other, and they always go a lot later than I feel like they should. And that's Nick Chubb, Raheem Mostert, and Joe Mixon. I know they all have kind of injury concerns or age concerns, but I feel like comparatively, I'd much rather have all 3 of these guys than Jalen Warren, David Montgomery, Pollard, Harris, and Eckler. I'd rather have all 3 of these guys over them. Is that just me, or is that something that you also agree with?
Maybe for Nick Chubb and maybe Mixon. I don't know about Mostert. I know he scores a lot of the touchdowns, but I don't know if he can do that every year.
He's not going to be. I don't think he's going to get the 21 touchdowns that he had last year.
If he did again, I'd be very surprised.
But no one expected him to do it last year in general. So I feel like he's still going to be solid. And that's another thing I'd like to touch on as a Dolphins fan. I like Devon Achane. I don't think he's bad. But I don't think he's as good as everyone's projecting him. Like in this, he got taken, the second round. I don't think he's a second round pick. I think he's more of a 3rd or 4th round pick personally. So it's kind of weird seeing him that early. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to take Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb here. Some older guys, but some solid guys overall.
Let's see. Now I don't really know what I want to take here. I could use another receiver. Thing is, I'm not really high on Jamison Williams from Detroit. Was he suspended last year for gambling, right? And then in these games he played, he's not scoring very high. To be fair, he is on my bench, so...
I think Jamison Williams had some really good plays last year. A lot of his plays were down the field, last-ditch effort, like touchdowns a lot of the time, where he would just get that long, deep ball, and it wouldn't make him, like, super fantasy viable, but, like, if you had him in, like, a big league, he got you, like, 6-7 points, maybe 10, 15 on lucky days.
Yeah, I think I'll go with him for now. It is just a mock. I guess we'll see when the actual draft comes around where I'll go.
Absolutely.
Problem here is all the top players are just quarterbacks and tight ends, so it's kind of weird. But I'm looking at my team here. I have 2 receivers and 2 running backs on the bench, so I could really go whatever I want here. And I'm a Courtland Sutton guy. He's probably going to get traded, but maybe him and Bo Nix have the connection if he doesn't get traded. I don't know.
You took that guy I wanted. Now I'm sad.
I did?
I'm really sad. Yeah, absolutely.
Get wrecked.
Well, you don't have to phrase it like that, buddy. So we're in the backup QB era right now, where this is around when they'll start taking those backup QBs and tight ends. This is someone I see a lot of upside with, and I do have Stroud. I'm more likely to take this guy if I get like Kyler Murray or Jordan Love, because those are my 2 backups. If I don't get CJ Stroud, I want either Kyler Murray or Jordan Love. So if that ends up happening, I'm more likely to take this guy. But overall, high upside, maybe trade potential. I think taking Caleb Williams here isn't a bad pick, honestly.
True. I mean, get compared to Mahomes, you probably have a good chance to be good in the league.
And another backup. Normally, I don't take a backup tight ends, but T.J. Hawkinson will be out for the beginning of the year. I think that's why he's so much lower than he usually is. But if he comes back and he is how he is normally, then having him even be a flex option is not bad whatsoever.
See here, I'm looking two things. I kind of want to double up on the Seattle running backs with Zach Charbonnet, or I'll probably just go like Shakir or Mike Williams. And my problem with Charbonnet is he kind of was hit or miss, it appears, week by week. So I'm not really sure. It kind of just be taking it so no one else has him. Kind of like how it was Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery last year.
So, actually, my dad told me that handcuffing a player actually limits your upside a lot more because what's happening is you're always taking a hit in terms of value you're getting. So, say you have Jahmyr Gibbs and he gets out. Yeah, you have David Montgomery who's going to be the one there, but you're still losing value no matter what. Where if you handcuff like Elijah Mitchell and Christian McCaffrey gets injured, you now have the one there. So it makes a lot more sense to actually take a handcuff from another player rather than a handcuff from you that you have. It's something that my dad told me and explained to me. I didn't explain it as well as he did, but it really does actually make a difference, and it makes more sense to not take handcuffs as much. It's not obviously bad to have a handcuff, but I feel like in terms of value wise, it might be better just to take one of the other running backs or wide receivers that are available.
Well, I'm not high on Chuba Hubbard here, so I probably am not going to go him. So I'll go Shakir.
All right, not bad. I think Shakir is going to be solid. Obviously, with them drafting that new wide receiver and having Curtis Samuel, I don't think he's going to be as good as I was hoping, but he is going to be all-around solid, I think.
Yeah, and I'm probably just going to take Mike Williams here. He's my last player.
I got who I wanted.
Be pretty interesting on the Jets.
I think he's going to be a good late-round pick. I don't think he's going to be, amazing, but I think he's the number one there. Any number one in any offense should be able to do something, at least, hopefully. Niners defense, best defense in the league. I feel like that's undisputed. Maybe it could be disputed, actually.
It could be. I'm going to go Jets defense here.
I know you're really high on the Jets defense. Why do you prefer them over the Niners?
I don't prefer them over the Niners.
Oh, you don't? I thought you do.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, besides the Niners and the Jets, what do you think is the best defense?
2 days ago, I probably would have said maybe Steelers, but I might have to say Philadelphia if their picks turn out.
Makes sense.
So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to take Philadelphia.
Solid pick. I think that did someone take the New York Giants?
Yeah.
Bro.
Team one.
They took my pick. Okay. I'm going to say the Tennessee Titans are going to be good. They buffed them up, obviously, in the draft, so I think overall, Tennessee Titans will have a really good defense this year.
Yeah, okay. So I'll do a little scroll for anyone who's still watching here.
So should we compare and contrast teams?
If you want, yeah. Fill some more time.
So starting at quarterback, I have C.J. Stroud in the ninth round pick.
Hold on, let me move the face cam so they can see my team here. Lamar, I got it in the 6th round.
So who do you think gets the better value per pick there?
I think they're both pretty good value there, honestly. Because Lamar is obviously projected to go higher than Stroud, but Stroud was really good fantasy-wise last year, so in the 9th, I think that's still pretty good.
Overall, I'm a lot higher on Stroud over Lamar. I think, in my opinion, this is how I rank him. Not Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and then C.J. Stroud. That's my top 3. And then I have Lamar after that, and then Patrick Mahomes. So I honestly think that I got the better pick there, especially getting him in the 9th round. I think is really solid. But I can understand, going with the consensus on that.
Sounds like bias to me, but...
How is it biased?
Because it's your pick. You're going to say your pick is better.
But I got him a lot late. The reason I say it's better is because I got him a lot later, and I got someone who I believe is actually better. Is why I say that.
Yeah, but you're always the rushing QBs have the higher upside.
I said that last year. It didn't work out for me, and I'm kind of more just looking at the fact that he has so many great wide receivers, 3 amazing wide receivers, a receiving back, and a decent tight end. Yeah, I feel like he's going to get like over like 4,000 plus passing yards, if not more, this year. Honestly.
Running backs now. I got Gibbs and Rashad White at 2 and 5.
I got Taylor and Connor at pick 3 and 6.
I think I win that.
You win that, but you also spent a lot more draft capital on it with those early
Yeah, that
round
is true.
picks. But overall, I feel like they are going to do you better.
Mm-hmm. Wide receivers.
I got Jamar Chase and DJ Moore from 1 and 2.
I got Amon-Ra St. Brown and Brandon Ayuk at 1 and 3.
I think I win personally.
I think I win personally.
Then we can call it a tie, honestly, because I think they're both good wide receivers, both like solid groups. But I just the reason I think I win is because I got the number 1 in both. Did you get the number 1 in both? Who was your second one again?
Ayuk.
Ayuk. See, that's the thing. Ayuk splits a little bit with Debo depending on the day. Debo's better against man, while Ayuk's better against what's the other one?
Zone.
So that's why I think that mine is better because I feel like both my guys will do good on any day, while yours guys, Ayuk is more of an iffy kind of guy for me where he could do good. He'll probably get like 10 plus points per game, but it could be any given game that he could, be down a little bit.
Yeah, I'm also higher on Ayuk than you are, so
Yeah.
it's whatever. Tight end, I had Kincaid in the 9th. Am I reading that right? Yeah, 9th.
I had McBride in the 5th.
I think I'll give you that one.
I really like McBride. I really want to have that good tight end. I didn't have it last year at the beginning. I started with Kyle Pitts. It was going to be his year, I swear, but something
It's
went
always
wrong.
his year.
But I did end up getting Sam Laporta midway through, and I was pretty happy with that. But I was a little worried about if he was going to continue his production that he had early on. So I traded him for Mark Andrews into like a bigger trade, and it didn't end up panning out because Mark Andrews got injured at the end of the year.
Panned out for me.
Although I got Isaiah Likely afterwards, and Isaiah Likely just filled that role either way.
He's
so
a pretty solid guy.
It was
He just happens to play behind one of the best tight ends in the league, so he doesn't really get that much time to shine, really.
absolutely. Going on to our flex, I got Michael Pittman and Isaiah Pacheco, but I also have Christian Kirk who could go in there.
I have Martin Harrison and Roma Dunze, so
Both rookies.
it's kind of hard to say because
It's very
they
much
haven't played yet.
As we've been saying a lot this show, it'll have to pan out later, and we'll see what happens later.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say I won that for now.
For now, yeah.
But anything could happen going into this upcoming
Yeah.
season. And bench spots, what are we thinking?
I have Kenneth Walker,
Mm-hmm.
Ramondre Stevenson,
Yep.
Deontay Johnson,
Yeah.
Jamison Williams,
Mm-hmm.
Cortland Sutton,
Yep.
Khalil Shakir,
Yep.
and Mike Williams.
It's pretty solid. You had I think it was 2 really good running backs early, and then the rest were wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad. I prefer to have a lot more running backs just because I like to. Running backs are a lot more injury prone. I feel like there's a lot better options later. Excuse me. I got Christian Kirk, Marquise Brown, Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, Caleb Williams, T.J. Hockenson, and Devin Singletary. So I obviously have that backup QB of Caleb Williams who has a lot of upside. Honestly, I think if I were to take him in the draft, it'd be more of a trade pick where if someone's QB didn't pan out, I could possibly trade them Caleb Williams for something. And T.J. Hawkinson's going to be, I think he's going to be out for the first couple of games, but he'll be back a couple of games in. So I'm hoping it's kind of like an Alvin Kamara situation where last year Alvin Kamara was drafted last round and ended up being one of the better running backs in the year.
Yeah, I think I'll give you the bench. When I do these mock drafts, I typically don't really like my bench that much.
Mm-hmm.
There's some guys on my bench that I do like, but not a whole lot.
Yeah.
So
I like to get those. It's really good position where I am to get those running backs I talked about, the big 3 of Nick Chubb, Raheem Mostert, and Joe Mixon. In almost every single draft, I get at least one of the 3, if not 2 of the 3 usually. So overall, I feel like that is a big benefit for where I am in the draft. But I think that overall, I just have a more solid, like, these names are understood and you kind of know what they're going to get. Where yours, it's like a lot of them are kind of like either new teams or like thrusting into a new role. So it might be a little bit iffy.
yeah. Overall, I think it was a good draft from both of us, really.
Absolutely.
I think I'd be happy with this team if this is the final draft.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I feel like that's a lot of the time with these 18 league drafts. It's very easy to just be like, you have so many stud names that you're like, how is this team possibly bad? But then you look at the other team, it's like, oh, they got Josh Allen and Justin Jefferson. Oh, I guess they're technically better, but it's still like close.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't get the same team I did in our first year we did it.
That was you should pull it up right now and show them how rigged that was.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can pull it up. So, 2 years ago was our first time doing a league. It was not my first time. I've been playing since 2020, but it was Dylan's and a bunch of our other friends' first time. And my team, where's the draft? Draft results.
Yep.
So this is kind of how our draft went. I got Eckler, Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Debo Samuel, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, and all of them. My team was so stacked. I obviously won the league.
Yeah, easily.
It was kind of unfair because no one really knew what they were doing, and then Jonathan Taylor was a bust. Josh Allen went in the first round. Dalvin Cook was a bust in the first. This is from 2 years ago. Look how much this has changed.
Yeah. So we start with Jonathan Taylor, who obviously is a solid running back now, but he's more of like a second or third round pick now. Derrick Henry dropped way down after last year. There was so many injury concerns about him getting old and stuff, so he's been dropped way down. Christian McCaffrey is the only one in the first round that I think is still there out of all these guys because it's Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, at this point in time, he was in Carolina, actually, and I drafted him. My dad gave me some cliff notes. I was like, here, this is who you should draft. And I was like, oh, Christian McCaffrey had number 2. I'll take him, I guess. He seemed solid. Ended up really panning out when he got traded to San Fran halfway.
Yeah.
Moving on, we had Josh Allen. Quarterbacks in the first round in a 8-team league. Would not recommend that whatsoever. There's no reason you should unless it's a 2 QB league.
I believe it's only happened because the person who picked Josh Allen was one pick before our friend Devin, who's a huge Bills fan. You can see his name is literally Josh Allen 17 Enjoyer. So I think that was just to spite him, really.
He got stuff on Diggs, though. So.
Yeah, I think it still would have taken Josh Allen first round anyway. So
most definitely.
You could still apply it.
But then we had Cooper Kupp, who week 4, they busted out like it was horrible. He was out for the rest of the season, right?
Are you talking about this year or that year?
That year with Cooper Kupp.
I think we can check. It was 2022, right?
Yes.
It looks like week 10 he didn't play. He's pretty solid through 10 weeks, and then 11 through 18 he didn't play.
So I thought it was a little bit sooner, but that makes sense still. Dalvin Cook and Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler is not good anymore, but at the time
he was pretty good. He's a check down merchant.
Same with Dalvin Cook, both really good. And obviously Justin Jefferson started the second round. How he got away with that, no clue, but it is what it is. It goes to show how much changes within a few years. You got a lot of people here that you would never think about taking nowadays at the spot that they were taken,
Russell Wilson in the fourth. Obviously Tom Brady's retired. Tyreek Hill went in the 4th round. So let's see. Cam Akers up in the 6th. I took who's a late round? I got Devontae Smith in the 14th. So that was pretty good value.
That was a really good pick. Christian Kirk
in the 17th is pretty good too. Shout out Trey Ford.
Yeah,
Amon-Ra in the 13th.
Josh Jacobs went in the 11th.
Didn't Saquon drop in this one? He went in the 5th, and that was the year he went for 1,300 yards. So that was pretty good value too.
Raheem Mostert went pretty late. I don't think he had a good year that year. Antonio Gibson was here. Mitchell, Hunt. See, Elijah Mitchell actually went in the 9th because he was the number 1 at San Fran before CMC ended up going there.
Yeah. I also want to take a look at our 2023 draft.
Mm-hmm. This year we were a lot more competent. Everyone essentially knew what we were doing. We were a lot more aware of that you shouldn't take a QB in the first round. However, second round didn't pan out in that way too.
Yeah, so this one, as I was mentioning before, we had some draft pick trading here in this draft. And this is where, number 1 team took Josh Allen early here.
Mm-hmm.
And then quarterback started flying off the board here. So I was like, okay, I'll wait. And then eventually I get Deshaun Watson here. And then I ended up drafting Anthony Richardson as a backup as well.
Who got injured.
Yeah, I also accidentally drafted 2 tight ends this year. Actually, technically 3, just because we hit this point in the draft, and I was just like, okay, I don't even know what's going on anymore. Because look at You get one defense, 3 defenses in this round, 5 defenses in this round, or 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can't count. Whatever.
The defense and
But they start
QB rush.
flying off the board here, like for no reason.
I think it's because Colin Atkinson picked San Fran, Mike picked Philadelphia, and then from there on, it was just like, oh, a lot of the good defenses are leaving. I need to grab them now.
I think taking a defense anywhere before round 14 is a reach because
Absolutely.
each week you can just switch it out for a team that has a better matchup and like say the 49ers get like 3 points and I picked the Bengals who play a bad team and they get a lot of interceptions and turnovers and I get like 8 points.
Yeah.
Obviously you wouldn't take the Bengals over the 49ers, but like they had the better matchup so it worked out.
Yeah. So I think one thing to keep in mind, because we're an 8-team league, defenses kind of are a little bit more valuable than normal, because we have a lot less people, so a lot of the good defenses, or actually it should be the other way around, where they're more or they're less valuable. But I feel like having like Josh had the Dallas Cowboys through the entire year, and they did really solid. So he got him in round 12, and yeah, that was early for a defense, but the way it works in our league, that ended up really panning out for him. And some other notable ones are the Baltimore Ravens for Colin, got him a decent amount of points that year. Kansas City for Colin also got him a lot of points.
I'm trying to think. The Browns, who were at one point like they finished number 5 overall, they had like one of the best defenses. They didn't even get drafted.
Yeah.
So like it's really hit or miss with defenses. So I think just taking it that early is actually crazy.
But a lot of people think, I already got all my positions filled, right? Say you have
True.
you got Michael Pittman, you got every single wide receiver, you got all the wide receivers you want, you got all the running backs, quarterback, tight end. You are solid at every position. At this point, why don't I just go for the best defenses and also have the best defenses along with my solid guys all around? Which is why this happens, is because you got someone who starts taking a defense and everyone's like, oh yeah, I already got my team locked in. Why don't I just start taking defenses now? And then it just kind of rushes into each other.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Tucker went in the 12th round, so it's really just obviously people know what they're doing to a degree, but they're not like super like nerdy and statistically knowledgeable about it.
Yeah. So in this draft, I did take Jake Elliott as a kicker. My suggestion for if you're in an 8-team league, do not take a kicker. There's no reason to take a kicker. Take
I
a
agree.
guy that who has high upside but is also kind of iffy, because the week before you start, you can always just take any kicker and they should perform.
Similar to the defenses, you just kind of take like, oh, do you think your kicker can kick a lot of field goals this game? Take that guy. Like who'd I have? I had Jason Myers in this draft, and I think I swapped between him and a couple other guys pretty frequently each week.
Yeah.
I know I had Jason Sanders in there a bit, and I want to say some others, but I don't remember off the top of my head. So it's really obviously up to you what you think. But if you like in our draft here, Justin Tucker went in the 13th and said he could have had. he couldn't have had Jordan Addison. That was going the other way. Let's see, we could add. Could have added Thielen, who was a pretty solid this past year.
I don't think anyone expected that, though.
No, he could add. He did take Kamara, so I guess it's not that big of a deal. Dante Foreman was actually pretty solid for a couple games. Let's see. Dalvin Cook didn't really do anything. Okay, so maybe he lucked out here.
Yeah, obviously they're going to be that once in a while.
But I mean, there's people who didn't go drafted who probably went pretty high here or could have gone like, let's see. Devon A-Chain you could have had.
Okay, well, you got to keep in
Mostert you
mind.
could have had.
Okay, Mostert was a great pick. I was so happy.
G. Rice. Sam Laporta didn't even go.
I had
Jacoby
Rashad
Myers.
Penny and Elijah Moore. And I was looking at it, I was like, I don't know how much I trust Rashad Penny. And then I saw, oh, Mostert. I know. I play Madden. I seen that guy. He's my running back. I'll take him, I guess. Ended up being the absolute GOAT for me, getting me like being one of the best running backs in the league, I think behind Christian McCaffrey, essentially, which is what happened IRL. He was the second rushing, had like the second most touchdowns for a running back last year. So, obviously you have a lot of late round value picks, but like, it is also Justin Tucker. You can't be mad at him for that, especially if you like Justin Tucker.
That's true.
But like, in an 8-team league, you're a lot more lenient with these kind of things, where if you're in a 12-team, absolutely horrid.
He did finish as the number 2 kicker, so.
But that team also did finish as the worst team in the league, so.
Who?
Didn't Aiden draft Justin Tucker?
Oh yeah, he was the worst team in the league.
So maybe that is a sign not to draft a kicker that early.
I mean, looking at his team here, Cooper Kupp was injured a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Saquon kind of fell off. DK was all right. Najee wasn't good. Dallas Goedert was injured. Odell wasn't good. Miles Sanders wasn't good. Mike Evans was pretty good. Cam Akers was not. Juju was bad. Justin Tucker, and then he took Broncos defense. He also took Dak Prescott.
Mm-hmm.
Took Steelers defense, Dalvin Cook, and Quentin Johnson. So I feel like he drafted pretty bad anyway.
Yeah, overall, like when I look at my draft, I drafted Hill, Brown, and Waddle for my first 3 picks. I'm really happy with that. Between him and me, he drafted Kupp, Saquon, and Burrow. Absolutely horrid first 3 rounds, in my opinion.
I took Kelsey, Bijan, and Mark Andrews. And then I wasn't going to draft Derrick Henry, but I ended up getting him in the 4th, and I was like, I fell that far. I'm going to take him. So
yeah.
It worked out. It wasn't insane or anything, but it worked out great. And here I took Gibbs,
Mm-hmm.
which I kind of wish I kept, but yeah, it's whatever. And then I took the freaking Deshaun Watson, and then I traded this pick and he got Dak. I took Kyle Pitts because I think the draft took a long time. Like,
it took
it was
3-4 hours.
It was going for a while. So at this point, I was just kind of like done, and I was like, oh, Kyle Pitts, it's just here, just like goofing around.
Yeah.
And then I stuck with Seattle and Washington as my defenses. Let's see, did I trade anywhere else? I traded up for Jordan Addison, which I liked. And then I also pretty sure I took Jackson Smith and Jigba somewhere. Oh, yeah, before Deshaun Watson. So I was pretty high on the rookies last year.
Yeah.
And it kind of worked out, but...
So I think our first year was our beginning year, everyone kind of cementing themselves, figuring the game out. Second year was the fundamentals year. Everyone knew what they were doing. Everyone had an idea who they wanted. Everyone kind of went for it. This year, Michael started Renaissance last year for the trading, for when they do trades.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think that's
trades
gonna...
were crazy. I think our first year there was like 2 trades that happened.
Yeah.
And then last year we kind of had this thing of, oh, I'll trade you this person for 1 week, and then we just swap back after, which I outlawed because I think that's kind of stupid.
That is something that I agree. We should not be having 1 week trades. So I'm fine with that. I want to look back. Do you, as a commissioner, can you see all the trades that happen?
I believe so. Let's see here.
Because I have to scroll through the chat in order to do that.
So last year I actually had, I think I can only see my trades maybe. That's between me. Yeah, I think I can only see my trades maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll show you the, wait, is this even the right year? This isn't the right year.
Oh.
I don't think it is. Previous leagues, 2023. Trades review, trade history. So these are the 2 trades I did last year. Oh wait, I gotta fix the base cam. These 2 right here, I did with Dylan. I did McLaurin, Stevenson, and Laporta for Cooper, Andrews, and Addison.
Mm-hmm.
That one I actually wanted Christian Watson out of, but you wouldn't budge, so I was like, yeah, give me Terry McLaurin, why not?
I would have rather kept Terry McLaurin in hindsight, but I don't think it was. The trade I did, and the reason that I wanted to play it safe at that point, because I was already like number 2, and I was pretty sure I was going to make it to the playoffs. So at that point, I was more of just stocking up for later, and I was really worried about Sam Laporta being not nearly as good later on in the year. So that's why I wanted Mark Andrews, and that was the main reason I did the deal. I don't know what it was for you, but I really wanted Mark Andrews.
I just needed change because I was like 1-6 at this point. And I was like, something's got to change. I need to make moves. And then I made this other one. It was Mike Evans, Saquon Barkley, and Puka Nacua for Travis Kelce, Jacoby Myers, and Bijan. And I think I absolutely won that trade.
Absolutely.
I think the next week Bijan had the game where he had 0.3 points because he put like 1 snap or something.
Well, that was just unlucky. That's because they said he's good to go, and then he had like stomach bug or something, and they didn't play him.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Arthur Smith. You're my favorite coach in the world. You know, you gotta love him.
Mm-hmm.
Is he on the Steelers now?
I believe so, yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't draft George Pickens.
Maybe I should stay away from Steelers players.
So overall, I think, as I was saying earlier, I think that this year will be the renaissance for trading in terms of people will be smarter with trades. And I think in terms of the draft, I think trading up for picks will actually be something viable. Michael and me have talked about it before where Michael wants Josh Allen, but he doesn't think he can get him where he is. He wants to try to trade up for him, possibly. So I think this year will be a renaissance for that. And obviously there are some things to worry about with that. As a commissioner, I know that you're worried about that. Is there anything you could touch on why you think it might not be good or why you think it's fine and, like, just your opinion on it?
I'm a little concerned people are going to do, like, something stupid, like something that's really in favor of one person just because someone just feels like it. Like, if I trade you my first and all I get is, like, your 17th round pick or something, like, I don't want someone doing that. I don't think anyone will, because I hope they would treat it like your first round pick is like the NFL first round. You're going to have to get more than just, like, a 9th round pick for it.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I'm okay with trading, really. It just gets kind of confusing, like, looking back at it, like what we're doing there, like, oh, this person didn't actually draft there, but it was this person's pick. So I don't know if I'll personally be doing any trading. It really just depends on where the board is and if anyone's really looking to move up.
Yep.
I did a little last year. A couple of them were just kind of goofy. Like, I traded with Josh. We swapped first and second round picks so that we both get back to back.
That actually ended up screwing you over because you took 2 tight ends on accident.
Yeah,
Accident screw you over, but, like,
yeah, not necessarily screwed over, but it was my own fault because I just completely forgot. But I don't know. It'll definitely be interesting. There's some other rules that I'm looking to enforce. Let me pull it up what I was looking to do.
Yeah, we can have that discussion now.
There was a couple.
One thing I do want to ask you: how do you feel about trading picks for players during the season? Do you think that's an outlaw thing that you're?
I don't think we can do that in a redraft.
Because you could, I think you could just trade them the pick, couldn't you, during the thing, and just say that you owe them. So when the draft actually starts, you just owe the pick.
Maybe we'll have to figure that out though. I don't really know how that would work. All right, here needed fantasy football changes in my notes app. No more 1 week trades was the big one.
What do you think would be the punishment for that? Because people can still technically do that without telling you, and then. What if they were to do that 1 week and then the next week they just trade them back? Would you enforce anything on that? What would be the punishment?
Well, since I'm the commissioner, I can veto trades.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be kind of hard for them to do that. But I guess it could still happen. But it's kind of obvious when it's a 1-for-1 trade. And if it's for good players, it's not like your bench player or your possible flex spot. Like you would trade like a McCaffrey for a Jamar Chase, for example. Like obviously I'm smart enough to realize that's a 1 week trade.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be pretty obvious. I don't really know how I would punish someone. I guess I could just lock their roster so they can't make moves for a week.
Would you consider making it so that you had to have a player for 3 weeks before you could trade them back? Like, say if I got DK Metcalf from you, and then I trade it to Aiden like a day later, that's fine. But if I got DK Metcalf from you, I would have to wait at least 3 weeks in order to put him back into a trade with you. Would you consider that?
I like that. I'm gonna write that down. I like that. That's a good way to do it. And then another one that was a pretty big problem last year is, as a commissioner, I have the power to change people's roster. Like if you need someone off your bench and you're not able to do that right now, like I could just go in and do it.
Yeah.
And that caused a bit of controversy in the league last year at a very important time in the league, like close to playoffs, like people pushing in, and one of our friends wasn't able to put in Devon Achane, I think it was, and he had a good game or something like that. And so I was like, well, to avoid being in that pickle again, because that was just awful, I'm like, no. And no more asking me to do roster changes. If you can't change your lineup, you can't change your lineup.
What if it's like a day in advance thing? Is that
if
fine?
it's a day in advance, that's different. But like
once the game starts, nothing.
Day of is pretty. Not really. I'm probably still not going to do even day before. But I guess we'll see. Another one I had was free agency bidding. Like instead of how we have it now, it's like if you're the best team, you're lowest priority and so forth. I was thinking like I don't know how it works, but you get like a budget.
I think it's called Fab.
Yeah, it's Fab, and you get the budget, and then you potentially bet on it's an auction on them, and then obviously whoever pays most gets it. So I'll have to see how it is. I have a feeling most people won't want to do that.
See, I think there's a thing with our league that they don't like change.
Oh, yeah.
I have suggested change, whether that's in adding new positions or changing like how the free agency works, and everyone just seems not to like it because it's like
the one you mentioned. You brought up adding another wide receiver slot, and I was actually open to that, but it didn't seem like other people were for whatever reason.
I want to bring it up when it comes closer to the draft and kind of give more of an explanation to it. So that's why I'm not really talking about it now, because we're also so far away from it that it's not as permeant as it would be later. So I'm just going to wait to talk about that until I have actual bullet points with it. But I think just having the extra wide receiver would be nice. And that's why I think it's hard, though, because, no one wants to change anything. Everyone thinks this is good now. And I can understand that. But as someone who, really likes it and really cares about it, I really want there to be more options. So so I think free agency is definitely something we'll have to talk on, because I know there was a lot of controversy, especially with, was it Sam Howell?
I think it was Sam Howell. Someone wanted to get him and dropped him by accident or something, and then someone scooped him up, and they're like, "Give it to me. I wanted him." And then I was like, "Dude, it was like 11 o'clock at night. You guys always bring this stuff up at the worst times ever." So I'm just like, I'm just trying to go to bed, man. I don't want to deal with this.
So how do you? I remember we got that change because I advocated for it later on. Was if someone gets dropped, they are put on the waiver wire for a day before they can be picked up. Was that something you think you'll be continuing into this season, or do you think you're going to be changing that?
Absolutely, I'll keep that. It makes it the most fair, because for a while it was like if someone dropped a player, it was whoever's fastest to you see the notification, click, add, and then that's who gets it.
And a lot of time that was Michael, because Michael had those notifications. He got Gibbs, some other really good guy.
Well, he got Gibbs right after the trade because we were talking, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll just pick up Gibbs. Why not?"
But I also am fine. I was biased of it too, because I got Kyrie Williams from it, which really helped me later on in the year.
I think I got Tank Dell out of it.
So I think having the waiver wire makes sense, though.
Yeah. The next one I have is our waiver wire. So I've been playing with my family since 2020, and I moved our waiver wire to Tuesday because there's no football. After Monday, there's no football the rest of the week until Thursday. So I was like, why not just do Tuesday? And then you brought up that you wanted on Wednesday, and I was like, yeah, I'd consider it, moving it back to Wednesday. I'd be okay with that. But no one else in the league seems to be interested.
So my reasoning for that is I like to do a little bit of research, and I like to know who is good and who is not. I like to watch podcasts. I like to do research, see how they did, and I like to have that time to think about it. Where it's Monday night, I have to have all that in immediately, and a lot of the people that I watch that give me the info on it don't upload until Tuesday.
Because the typical waiver wire is on Wednesday.
Yeah, so that's why I feel just changing it to what it normally is allows it to, so that people who do the research. I know that's why it's different for a lot of people. A lot of people in our league don't do as much research as I do, but I like to have that time to think about it and do my priorities, because that's something I struggled with last year, was prioritizing who I wanted. Having that extra time allows me to think, do I want this defense more than I want this player that I'm just going to be starting for a week, or do I want to focus on this defense to make sure someone else doesn't get in the league? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. The next thing we had is extra game against the league median. I forget exactly what that does, but I remember it being something important. I think it does for tiebreakers and stuff.
Yeah, I think. So this was whoever has the most points at the end beats someone in terms of what can you tell me what that is? Because I'm trying to think what it is.
Let me actually look. I don't remember exactly. League settings. Where would that even be? Team settings? No. Scoring? Huh. I don't really know what that means. Oh, let's look at it. What does a game against the league median do in fantasy football? Under a league median, you still play your opponent each week and get a win or loss depending on the head-to-head result. But each week, you have another game against the league median score. If you score more than the league median, you get an additional win.
Oh, I remember. Okay, I remember this now. So it was essentially being say that I scored 220 points, had an amazing week, but I was playing you and you scored 221. I would still get a win for that. I would get a win and a loss that week, while you would get a win and a win, because I scored the second most points in the week, but I didn't win.
But you still lost.
So getting that thing where even though you still performed really good and losing hurts a lot, because you feel it's just it doesn't matter you had such a good week. Me and Michael, we had the most points scored between each other in weeks, and I won both weeks, even though he was the second highest during that week. So the talk was that having it so if you're in the top 4 highest scoring points that week, or even top 2, you still get points, or you get another win. But if you're in the bottom 2 or bottom 4, you don't, and you get another loss. But the thing about that is kind of the worst teams get worse and the better teams get better, which is I think was the main problem. And I don't know how I would feel about it now, because like imagine being Aiden Kavanaugh and getting like 135 per week when everyone's getting like 150 plus. You're just losing more and more and more, and there's like a less of a deficit of being able to get out. You know what I mean?
To be fair, though, at that point, you should know that you got to do something, make some moves in order to change your roster. Because, like, obviously, if you draft and then your team turns out to be bad, like, there's nothing you can do about it. You didn't know that. But, like, for me, last year, I was 1-7, and, like, I liked my team, but they're kind of underperforming. So I was like, well, I need to make some moves. So then I ended up making the playoffs when I didn't think I was.
Yeah.
And I ended up winning, but it was a pretty good season overall.
Would you have made the playoffs though if you had those extra losses? Is the thing. Like it's more of a deficit. Saying like you lost, you went 1-7, right? You said,
or something like that. 1-5. 1-5.
We'll say 1-6, right? Say you only had 2 top 4 of those weeks, you would be 3 and it was out of 8, so you'd be like 3-12, which is a lot more of a deficit to climb out of. When like at that point I would have been like probably like say I would have been like 12-5 or something.
I guess it depends really on what the median is, because like maybe it's a down year and like teams aren't scoring that much, so like maybe it's a 130, or maybe it's higher, it's like a 150, and then it really depends, I guess.
I just think there's too much variable, and I feel like that just is like it's a feast or famine thing, where if you're doing good, you're just going to do even better. If you're doing bad, there's just nothing you can do about it at that point. So I feel like that one we shouldn't touch on. Something I would like to bring up, and I'm not certain on it, and I don't think we should, but I would like to just talk about it, is the best ball possibility.
I have that written down, yeah.
So that's essentially where instead of it being a head-to-head, you still have the head-to-head, but it's more of there's 2 types of best balls. One is where it's a head-to-head in whichever position, like if I have quarterback and they have quarterback, if my quarterback scores more points, I get a point for that. And if like between the 2 running backs, if mine score more, I also get another point. It's something like that is a best ball. But there's also the best ball, which is the more standard one, where it's just you're playing throughout the entire year, and whoever has the most points at the end of the year wins.
I think that's what Sleeper has is the second one. I can't remember, but I have that written down. Another thing I had was roster limits, so people can't hoard players, because I know people like to hoard defenses last year, and I want to say QBs, but I know for sure they were hoarding.
It was tight ends last year was the big one.
Tight ends and defenses were the big ones.
The ones where it's a lot more sparse, or not sparse, like not as many, like there's not as much tight ends as there are like quarterbacks that are good. So like I think one of our league mates had Jake Ferguson, Dolan Kincaid, Kyle Pitts, and like another tight end. He had like 4 of them, which it just makes it so like I needed a tight end at that point. And I remember I started Pat Fryermuth and David Njoku at the time, and granted they were all right, but like I would have much preferred any of the guys he had on his bench, you know.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't limit like all the things. I wouldn't limit like running backs or receivers.
I think those are allowed to be like more wide.
But I think I keep it like 2 quarterbacks, 3 defenses maybe. And then probably 2 tight ends, and that would probably just be it, really.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think, like, did you say 2 or 3 QB?
2.
2, that makes sense. So just making sure you can't just hoard a bunch of players. And I know at the end of the year we had some issues with Aiden, who was, like, grabbing a bunch of defenses. Or was it Aiden? I feel like someone was grabbing a bunch of, like, defenses or players that were good for someone else when they were already lost or something. Do you remember the situation?
I think it was just he couldn't make the playoffs, so he's like, I'm going to take players so people can't. And Sleeper actually added a thing for that where you can just lock people's rosters if they can't make transactions, because in other people's leagues they would have someone who doesn't make the playoffs and they just drop their entire team. So it's not really fair to everyone else for that. So thankfully there is something for that, but I would hope all of us are not people who would do that.
Yeah. I mean, you never know. But one thing I would like to touch on, it's not something I'm seriously bringing up, but I would just like to talk about. one keeper player per year. I know you have that in like your family league, I think.
Yeah, we do that.
So what would you think about doing that in ours?
See, the keeper is cool because you get to keep your best player, but typically if you have someone who's like a Justin Jefferson or Travis Kelce who's just going to stay on the same team every year, it kind of gets boring that you just keep the same guy and they're not like available to the rest of the people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good and bad. Something I definitely would like to try, but I don't think people would be interested is a dynasty league.
I would love to do a dynasty league, and I know my dad was considering one, and I was like going to do that, but I don't know if people see. The thing is, managing one league like fully in is kind of easy enough. At least for me, I was easily able to do it. When I had my other league, I was like either fully into this or I was half into this and half into that.
Mhm.
There was no like split.
Yeah, the more leagues you're in, it gets kind of difficult. Plus, like, it takes more to. You got to put more effort into a dynasty league because it's more like an actual NFL team where you have to like prepare for the future and win now or whatnot and all that, and like draft picks actually matter in that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think people would be invested, like especially people like Aiden or KP who aren't like super invested. Like they like to play, but they don't really care that much.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting to think about, but like we'll probably just bring all this up at the draft, really.
Yeah.
Usually when we do our changes for the year. Are we gonna keep the divisions?
I don't think they hurt.
Maybe switch up the teams in them.
I just don't know if it matters.
Yeah, I don't think it really does anything.
Due to the fact that we only have 8 of us and we're all just going to play each other twice,
Yeah.
the divisions don't do anything. And that actually kind of leads into what I was going to talk about. Would you consider having another 2 people added? Because those 2 people I have in mind, I don't want to just name drop them, but...
I mean, you can go ahead and name drop them if you want, but like I'd be okay with it. It's just, I don't know how people feel about... I don't know what people think is too many, because I don't think I'd do more than 12.
See, that's what I'm saying. I would think adding another 2, 2 of our friends that were kind of interested in it. One's a Seahawks fan, one's a Texans fan, partially.
Okay, then I know who it is then.
So they were partially. I don't know how much about the Texans fan, but I know Seahawks fan was interested in it, and I feel like having them would alleviate my problem of the extra wide receiver, and it would make the leagues kind of important because then you would play the people in your league twice and then once for the other people.
Less people would make the playoffs too.
True, and it would be like 4 people make the. Would it be 4 or would it be 6?
I think right now we have 6 make the playoffs, so 4 wouldn't.
So I feel like it allows more people to be interested in it, and I think it alleviates a lot of the problems I have with how deep the league is, and it also alleviates some of the problems with the league, with the divisions in it that don't really do anything right now.
Yeah, that was something we'd obviously have to bring up before the draft.
Mm-hmm.
If we're seriously considering it, because it'd be kind of weird, but like, hey, you want to join our fantasy league after the draft, and they get nobody on their team.
Yeah.
So. But it's definitely something I'd be interested in looking at. But I would want them to not necessarily be like fully dedicated, but I want them to play. Like I don't want them to just draft and then just forget about it like we did for the basketball league.
Mm-hmm.
So if they are committed, I'm okay with it. If they're not, then there's really no point in them joining. It's just taking up players just to do it, really.
All right.
And the final thing I had was just potential scoring changes.
Yeah, so I think something that happened midway through that I advocated highly against was like the QB passing for 6 points and the difference between passing for 4 and then passing for 6.
Something I changed and then changed back because I saw your point of view.
Because having that quarterback I drafted like Justin Fields for the intent of the rushing, having that all kind of be like invalidated kind of like ruins the draft. And I would be open to changing it now, but like during the midseason, I don't think it was the best time.
It's weird because like they have it as passing touchdowns are not 6 points, but every other touchdown you get is 6 points. So I was like, that seems kind of weird. Just change that real quick, no one will notice. And then I thought about it more after talking with you, and I was like, okay, yeah, that does make a little more sense. But I don't know, some other changes maybe.
I would like to talk on kickers. I feel like kickers should not have as much of an influential role. They should not be getting like 20 points a week, and that's something that it might just be a me thing, but I feel like it's more of in my opinion, it's not like a wide receiver where it's like a skill you choose if that's a good week. It's more of this kicker is on a bad team that's playing a okay defense. They're more likely to get more kicks. Like that's.
Yeah, I think I know people who agree with you just because you could play phenomenal, but their kicker just wins them the week because they got so many points.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something we can definitely adjust. Another thing I wish they had was punters because I think that would just be so funny to have a
Yeah.
punter. But another thing I'm considering is defensive, like a defensive player, just one. I think it would add a little different, like a little switch up to the leagues. Yeah, I would see how it goes. Obviously, you only get one, so it's kind of difficult to choose.
It'd be more like a either the kicker or the defense class in terms of
Yeah, if we did do it, I'd probably remove a defense and then just swap it out for the player.
That makes sense.
So I guess, like I said, this is all stuff we can bring up before the draft, during the draft.
See, that also I do want to address a concern with that though, getting rid of a defense, because I feel like at the my other league we had that where it was one defense, one defensive player. I had the Chiefs all year, never changed, and only took it out when they were out 1 week, and then put them back in immediately, essentially after. Same with my defensive player. I only had it was the Chargers guy, James Derwin Jr. I think is his
Derwin
name.
James.
Yeah. So I had him in all year, so that's what I'm a little worried about, which is getting rid of a defense, because I like the aspect of like thinking, oh, what defense do I want to start per week, and getting rid of one kind of just makes it like, I got the Niners, why do I care anymore about defense?
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah. Definitely some interesting things. There's a lot of things you can do in fantasy football when you don't even realize it.
So I think we need to like 2 weeks before the draft tackle
Yeah.
some of these things.
It really depends on, because this past year is when Devin went off to college. We had to do it a little earlier than we did the year before. Well, the year before we did it like a week before because it was like last minute, like, oh, let's do a fantasy league.
Yeah.
But I think sometime in August is usually what we aim for. Usually not like super late, but the later in August, the better. Because you get like teams are playing like all the people with injuries. Like if we drafted like early August and then someone gets season an injury, it's
Cooper Cup that happened this year.
It's kind of hard to deal with. So I usually like to go later in August, maybe early September. It depends on when the season starts, really.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, so overall, I think we touched on everything we wanted to do. We did the kind of like the few fantasy things, not fantasy, player name things at the beginning. We talked about the draft the first 2 rounds, and I think overall we got most of the teams did pretty well. We had a couple controversial picks, but overall I think the teams did good. We did another mock draft, went more or less how we expected. You know, at this point in the game, we're kind of just waiting until we get closer, more news, and then we talked about some of their fantasy things, whether that's about the 8-team league and rules or just in general players. So, is there anything else we need to talk about today?
I don't really think so. I don't have anything else to cover.
I think I'm all good if you are.
All right. If they're still watching at Open House, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you